In Marvel, I practiced the method of swallowing stars and amazed the Avengers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. You will regret it. Just as Natasha was about to retreat, she saw the robot chasing her coming out of the back intersection. Her expression suddenly changed. Ms. Natasha, because you obstructed the operations of the Sentinel Secret Service, we now have the right to arrest you. At this time, a man's voice came from the robot standing in the front and center. Go, Natasha. Ignored the other party's words and rushed directly towards the sentry robot behind her. Although the Sentinel robot is produced by the Trask Group, it is actually controlled by the Sentinel Secret Service established by the government. This department is on the same level as S.H.I.E.L.D. Theoretically, both agencies are departments with special powers of the government. The moment she approached the opponent, Natasha slid directly between the robot's legs. During the process of passing through, a circular instrument is attached to the body of the sentry robot *Zila. There was a burst of electricity from the round instrument point. The sentry robot twitched for a while and then crashed to the ground. Natasha didn't even look back and ran towards the intersection she came from. The three robots standing on the other side saw this and stopped holding back. A needle-like object shot out from the hand of the robot in the middle and pierced Natasha almost instantly. There was a thin line behind the needle connected to the robot's hand. Natasha only felt a pain in her shoulder, and then an electric current flowed through her body. Feeling numb all over, her body fell towards the ground. Fortunately, at this time, Annie ran out from the side of the street, immediately removed the thing inserted into her body, helped her up, and ran to the other side. After the sentry robot, which was frozen by Annie, tried to break free with brute force, the surface of its body gradually began to turn red, and at the same time it released extremely high temperatures. The ice surrounding them melted quickly. The current sentry robots have not yet reached the level of invincibility that they were in the later period. They can copy the opponent's abilities by just touching them. Each sentry robot has only one ability, and it is fixed. After discovering for the first time that Annie had ice-based abilities, all of the sentry robots sent by Trask Industries naturally had fire-based abilities. After several robots escaped from the trap, they chased directly in the direction Annie left. After a few minutes, a total of 5 sentry robots surrounded the two of them in a dead end. Looking at the blocked path in front of her, Annie had a look of anxiety on her face. Oops. Natasha's numb body gradually relaxed at this time. Pull out 2 telescopic sticks from your body. He rushed towards the robot behind him. All the high-tech weapons on her body have been used up. The pulse bomb just now was the last one. Waving the telescopic stick in his hand, the attacks hit the robot like raindrops, but all of this did no harm to the robot, which was made of alloy materials. Natasha, who retreated to her original position, glanced at Anne beside her and spread her hands. It seems my fighting skills are useless against them. It's up to you. After Annie heard this, she shook her head anxiously. No, I just overexerted myself, and I can't use my ability for the time being. Well, hearing this, Natasha put away the telescopic stick in her hand. Then, I can only pray that your ex-boyfriend and the director are able to rescue us from the Sentinel Secret Service. She naturally knew the purpose of Nick Fury sending her to protect Annie. It's nothing more than recruiting Zumo. Of course, there may also be a purpose of recruiting Anne. After all, Annie is not weak after awakening her abilities. Seeing that the two of them had nowhere to run, a group of soldiers walked out from behind the sentry robot. The leader was a middle-aged man. Miss Anne, come with us. The man ignored Natasha beside him. She has no role in the research of mutants, and even if she is brought back, she will probably be taken away by S.H.I.E.L.D. people in a short time. There is no need to bother. Of course, I don't know what crime I committed. Do you have a warrant for my arrest? Anne calmed down at this time. She naturally knew that the other party could not have an arrest warrant, and the reason why she said this was to delay time. Hearing this, the man had a contemptuous smile on his face. These are not important. The important thing is that you are now very useful to our research. After saying this, without waiting for the other party's reaction, He waved gently to the soldiers behind him. When the soldiers saw this, they took out a mutant ability suppressing collar and put it on Annie. Wait a moment. Natasha saw this and stopped the other party. After hearing this, the man had a look of impatience on his face. Miss Natasha, you have blocked our actions many times. For the sake of your director, we don't have to argue with you, but we hope you won't push your limits. When Natasha heard this, an indifferent smile appeared on her face. I just kindly remind you that Mizen's boyfriend is not an ordinary person. If you mess with him, I'm afraid you will regret it soon. After the last incident with Magneto, S.H.I.E.L.D. naturally launched an investigation into Magneto's whereabouts. After a period of time, they have preliminarily deduced where Magneto and his men are going. Naturally, they set their sights on the Island of Death. It is impossible to hide the fact that Magneto bought the Island of Death privately from S.H.I.E.L.D. Moreover, during this period, through mobile phone positioning, they also learned that Zemo often stayed on the Island of Death. Combined with the conflict between Zemo and Magneto, and the fact that Magneto was taken away by someone, it is easy to infer that Zemo subdued Magneto and moved to the Island of Death. After reaching this conclusion, Nick Fury's assessment of Zemo's strength has risen by several levels. And he has listed the other party as one of the most unprovoked existences. After all, the destructive power caused by mutants like Magneto, when they are crazy, is almost as good as mushroom bombs. As long as these people don't make trouble, S.H.I.E.L.D. will not easily provoke them. Of course, these things are also deliberately let the other party know. Showing some means can avoid some troubles, just like this time. After S.H.I.E.L.D. learned about it, the first reaction was to protect Annie. After hearing Natasha's reminder, the man sneered. Regret. I'm afraid the person who can make our Sentinel special service regret has not been born yet. Really? As soon as the man finished speaking, a space door slowly opened in front of him, and Zemo walked out of it. Seeing his figure, Natasha breathed a sigh of relief. She looked herself at the slowly closing portal in surprise. I thought you didn't care about your girlfriend. Annie on the side threw into his arms. Chapter 52. This must all be fake. It wasn't until half a minute later that Annie reluctantly left Zemo's arms. At this time, there was already a trace of tears in the other party's eyes. It's okay. Seeing Annie's expression, Zemo comforted her. It seems that in my memory, I rarely see this kind of look on the other side. At any time, the other person always had a smile on his face and looked untroubled. After all, with Zemo as her boyfriend, she has not encountered any setbacks in the entertainment industry. It seems that this time he really scared the other party. Only then did Annie notice Zemo's appearance. Wait, how did you get here just now? I seem to see a hole with sparks coming out. Are you also a mutant? This is magic. Zemo opened his mouth to explain. Magic? You're a mage, and you didn't even tell me after all these years of dating. There was a look of disappointment on Anne's face. Actually, forget it. Now is not the time to explain this. I will explain it to you slowly, when I get back. After speaking, Zemo looked at the group of soldiers and several sentry robots on the opposite side. It seems that you are really going to any lengths for a search. Raven had told Zemo some time ago all the information she knew, but the information she knew was very limited. After all, she was imprisoned as a prisoner originally. Zemo planned to break through to a planet-level spiritual master and then find trouble for the other party. But he didn't expect that the other party came to the door first. After seeing Zemo's strange appearance, the soldiers, including the leader, felt a little guilty. But when he saw 5 sentry robots standing behind him, the man felt a little more confident. They were no strangers to mutants with this ability. There was once a mutant experimental subject with this ability in the base. Codename Red Devil. Moreover, the ability of the person in front of he is still far behind compared to the Red Devil. The Red Devil's ability was instantaneous, and he was already lifted into the air before he could react. But looking at the opponent's ability, there is obviously a big delay. Arsehole, we are here for the future of mankind. Aliens like you should not exist in the first place. Seeing the other party's confident look, Zemo didn't bother to talk nonsense to him. A slight wave of his right hand. A huge portal appeared at the feet of those soldiers. These soldiers fell directly, before they had time to react. At the other end of the portal, or 1,000 meters above every one point in an instant, like paratroopers parachuting. Groups of soldiers in camouflage uniforms fell freely from the sky. The only difference is that these soldiers do not have parachute packs on their backs. Only 5 sentry robots activated their propulsion devices and floated in place. Of course, the middle-aged man standing at the front was also supported by a sentry robot and thus escaped death. The man looked at the soldiers in the sky and gave orders to the sentry robot behind. Help. The remaining 4 robots received the order and wanted to fly into the sky, but Zuemo on the opposite side obviously didn't want to give them this opportunity. Planet level mental power shrouded these robots. Almost instantly, all these robots crashed. He had handed over the remains of the sentry robots that besieged the White Queen to the group of researchers under Baron Strucker. Although there is no way to imitate them yet, they have completely analyzed the structure of these sentry robots. Zuemo naturally knew where the control centers in these sentinel robots were. All it takes is destroying this control center to reduce these robots to a pile of scrap metal. The frozen robot slowly floated in front of Zuemo and was put into the storage ring by him. As long as these robots are replaced with new control centers, they can become their loyal guards. The middle-aged man, who was held in the hands of the robot, watched Zuemo do all this, but was unable to stop him. After the robot disappeared, he fell directly to the ground. The severe pain woke him up. Illusion. Yes, all this must be an illusion cast by you. I won't be fooled. Sentinel, attack. After saying that, the man closed his eyes tactfully. As long as it is not affected by the opponent, the sentry robot will naturally defeat the opponent. After all, the sentry robot is not afraid of psychic abilities. Looking at this scene, Zuemo and others were a little bit dumbfounded. I didn't expect you to see through it so easily. Walking forward, Zuemo slapped the other person on the face so hard that several teeth were knocked out. How's it going? It doesn't hurt at all. After saying that, he stepped hard on the crotch of the man who was knocked to the ground. The man screamed like a slaughtering pig. Hallucination. This is not real. The man covered his crotch and roared with blood foaming from his mouth. At this time, the soldiers who fell from the sky finally landed successfully. The sound of click sounded one after another. There were more blooming blood flowers on the ground. At this time, Zuemo's eyes moved and he looked towards the sky in the distance. A group of figures as big as flies appeared on the horizon. After a moment, he flew in front of everyone. They are also sentry robots, but this time there are 17 or 8. There was a young man in a white coat sitting on the robot in the front. After the young man landed, he hurried forward to help the middle-aged man up. Captain Wayne, how are you? Lyle. Seeing the young man in front of him and the sentinel robot coming to support him from behind, the man showed an unbelievable look on his face. How could it be? It was not until this moment that he suddenly realized that everything that had happened before did not seem to be an illusion. Looking at the pools of blood on the ground, Wayne looked at Zuemo with vicious eyes. Kill him. Before the sentinel robots made any move, Zuemo had already taken the lead. Exactly the same. After destroying the control center of these robots, he collected all of them into the space ring. After collecting them, Zuemo said to Wayne with a smile, "In the illusion I created, how could you hurt me?" Hearing Zuemo's words, Wayne was like crazy. This is an illusion. No, this is real. It's not right either. Captain Wayne, a normal man, was driven crazy by Zuemo's series of operations. The young man named Lyle also changed his face at this time. Is this entering an illusion? After all, he knew the combat effectiveness of the sentinel robot very well, and the scene where the other party solved the sentinel robot was indeed too outrageous. Even Natasha and Annie behind Zuemo were not sure whether what they saw was real or illusory. Natasha looked at Zuemo's back not far ahead. At this moment, she really couldn't see through him. No wonder Nick Fury tried every means to win him over. With these strange and unpredictable abilities of the other party as his enemy, he would really be tortured to collapse. Chapter 53, Sentinel Special Service Office sinks to the bottom of the sea. Seeing that the other party had collapsed, Zuemo had no interest in torturing the other party anymore. A huge space door appeared under everyone's feet. All of them suddenly fell downwards. Anne and Natasha were startled by the sudden feeling of weightlessness. but almost instantly, the two of them were hugged by Zuemo. After falling out of the space door, they appeared in the sky above an island. Here it is. Natasha looked at the buildings on the island below her feet, and looked at Zuemo, who was close at hand, with a look of surprise. Yes, this is the headquarters of the Sentinel Secret Service. The Sentinel Secret Service is located on this small island of less than 1 square kilometer on the edge of Manhattan Point. The entire island belongs to the Secret Service. After receiving Zuemo's affirmative answer, the expression on Natasha's face also changed. What you up to? Zuemo did not answer the other party, but gently landed on the ground and let go of their bodies. But Annie was now completely glued to him, and it took a lot of effort to pull her away, provoking a resentful expression from the other party. Wayne and Lyle were not so lucky. It fell directly into the top floor of the main building on the island. This building is the office building of the Sentinel Secret Service, and the top floor is a huge conference room. At this time, the conference room was filled with senior officials from the Secret Service. On the huge screen on one side of the conference room, there was information about an. The content of the meeting was obviously about how to capture this mutant. The two figures who suddenly burst into the conference room startled everyone in the conference room. After the smoke and dust dissipated, everyone carefully walked out of their respective bunkers and discovered that the two pools of objects on the ground could be vaguely identified. And they were the two people sent out. Oops, look at the two people on the ground. The expressions of everyone in the office changed. It seems I came at the right time. Everyone is here. A familiar voice sounded in everyone's ears. It was only then that everyone discovered that a figure had been standing at the window at some point. Natasha and Annie, who were standing on the outskirts of the island, saw that less than half a minute after Zuemo disappeared, the 10-story main building located in the center of the island slowly floated after a violent shaking. Then it continued to accelerate and flew into the air. After a while, the building turned into a small black dot in their sight. In the top floor conference room, everyone felt the building rising gradually, with horror in their eyes. At this time, the building has reached several thousand meters in the air, and even the air has become very thin. After a while, a middle-aged man who seemed to be the person in charge stood up holding the table. What on earth are you going to do? He naturally understood that all this was caused by the young Chinese man in front of him. Of course, I will completely destroy your organization. No, you can't do this. We are a department under the government. If you do this, you will become a sinner of the entire country. After hearing Zuemo's words, the leading man warned with a stern expression. Really, it's not important. The important thing is that you have to enjoy an exciting journey next. As soon as Zuemo finished speaking, the rising building gradually stopped, and then the building began to freely fall downwards. In order to prevent the speed from being insufficient, Zuemo also exerted a downward push. In less than 10 seconds, the entire building's flight speed had reached hundreds of meters per second. The strong sense of weightlessness caused everyone in the room to cling to the roof, and they let out ear-piercing screams. They never dreamed that middle-aged people could still experience such an extreme sport. Several older people had already gone into shock at this speed. Have fun. Zuemo raised his head and showed a kind smile to the people on the ceiling and disappeared in a flash. On the small island. Seeing the building accelerating and falling downwards, the staff in the other buildings panicked. They all drove towards the bridge connecting to the land. Natasha and Annie, who were watching this scene in stunned silence, only felt a tightening in their waists. Zuemo didn't know when he appeared behind the two of them. He carried the two of them and dodged through the portal at the back. When the three of them appeared again, they were already on the roof of a high-rise building. The two of them looked at the familiar island in the distance and immediately understood that the three of them were in Manhattan itself, across the sea from the island. In the sky above the distant island, the falling speed of the building is close to the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, the building had fallen hard on the island. Following a huge roar, a mushroom cloud rose from the island. Alert sounded in Zuemo's mind. Kill the villain and get 142 points. Kill the villain and get 156 points. The beep lasted for a full 3 or 4 minutes before it stopped. 10 minutes later, the smoke dissipated. The cake seller Natasha looked at the island that was torn apart and slowly sinking under the huge impact, and she let out an exclamation as she walked SHIELD director's office. Nick Fury was holding a cup of coffee and watching the island slowly sinking on the monitor in front of him. Director, if we leave it alone, will it cause dissatisfaction from the Department of Defense? Coulson stood beside him, with a trace of worry on his face. Of course they will be dissatisfied. After all, the Sentinel project is supported by the Department of Defense behind the scenes. Nick Fury's dark face showed a row of neat and white teeth. But it's none of my business. The White House has clearly ordered that mutants and ordinary humans have the same rights. It is these people who continue to ruin the reputation of the government. Otherwise our SHIELD would not have a high-level combat force to show off. Obviously, Nick Fury does not agree with the Department of Defense to establish the Sentinel Special Service. You know, the awakened abilities of mutants are varied. There are some very powerful beings among them. If these people are taken into SHIELD, the strength of SHIELD will undoubtedly increase greatly, and it will be more handy to deal with some unnatural cases. But because of the existence of the Sentinel Special Service, mutants are very repulsive to government agencies. Until now, SHIELD has not been able to recruit a powerful mutant. Nick Fury was somewhat helpless about this. In his opinion, the mutant's actions were understandable. Even if it were him, after hearing about the deeds of the Sentinel Special Service, he would not be able to expose his identity to the government agencies. This also led to SHIELD having to cooperate with the X-Academy when encountering some difficult problems on the rooftop of Manhattan. Looking at the gradually silent island, Zuemo turned his head and looked at Natasha beside him. Although I'm following the orders of the director of SHIELD, I still want to thank you this time. If it weren't for you, Annie would have suffered this time. After speaking, Zuemo stretched out his right hand. A booklet appeared in his hand. This thing is a thank you gift, but this thank you gift is only for you. Remember to burn it after reading it. After speaking, he stuffed the booklet into Natasha's hand without saying anything, and then hugged Annie and stepped into a space door. Chapter 54 New Skills Unlocked. Natasha looked at the two people who disappeared in front of her. She picked up the booklet in her hand and took a look. She didn't recognize the two Chinese characters, Thunderblade, on the cover. She opened the book. Fortunately the content inside was all in English. After a few casual glances, Natasha's eyes widened suddenly. There are only the first 5 levels of Thunderblade on it. After practicing all of them, you can increase your own strength by 5 times. At the same time, this method also has the effect of strengthening physical fitness. However, the effect is much slower than taking beast meat points. Despite this, Natasha was still excited. Her various fighting techniques have almost reached the point of perfection. The only shortcoming is physical fitness. If physical fitness can be improved tenfold, Natasha did not doubt the exaggerated description in the booklet. She had just seen Zuemo's mysterious ability. It is obviously impossible for the other party to be bored enough to use such a thing to deceive herself. Thinking of this, Natasha stuffed the booklet into her chest as if it were a treasure and walked downstairs. She couldn't wait to go back and practice Chinese Kung Fu upstairs. Zuemo and Annie passed through the space gate. They also appeared on the top of a tall building. The reason why he chose to give the other party the secret book of Thunderblade as a thank you was because this thing was generally very suitable for the other party. Of course, the main reason was that this thing did not cost money. He could print as many as he wanted. And only giving the other party 10 layers was not because he was stingy, but because there was only this kind of secret book with 10 layers recorded in the storage ring. He wrote these secret books some time ago and planned to give them to Soren and others. He copied hundreds of copies. Soren and others were completely brainwashed under the White Queen's psychic ability. Even if Zuemo asked them to die, they would not hesitate at all. Giving them the secret book, when their strength is improved, can greatly increase the speed of helping him harvest points. Annie looked at the huge row of English letters standing in front of her. Trask Industries Group. Is this the company that made those robots? Annie also had some knowledge of the history of mutants and sentinel robots, right? Zuemo nodded. Since he had already made his move, he would not leave any room for the other party. At this time, in the building below. A deafening alarm sounded in the building. In the Trask group, There are devices that can sense mutants everywhere. As long as a mutant enters the range of 100 meters of the building, it will be sensed by the device. Zuemo and Annie, who were standing on the roof, naturally heard the alarm from the building. But Zuemo didn't care. He walked downstairs calmly. The monitoring equipment in the entire building was destroyed in an instant. As soon as they entered the top floor, a group of soldiers with guns rushed out directly from the corner. After seeing Zuemo and the others, the leading officer pointed a device similar to a compass at the two of them, and a rapid beeping sound came from the device. After confirming that the two were the invading mutants, the soldiers pointed their guns at them. "Hold your head and squat," the leading officer issued a warning. Zuemo was unmoved and still walked towards the crowd. Seeing this, the soldiers did not hesitate at all and pulled the trigger in their hands almost at the same time. After the dense gunfire, the soldiers were horrified to see that all the bullets fired from the guns were suspended in the air. "Oops, everyone hide," the officer ordered in fear and dodged to the room next to him. Although the soldiers reacted quickly, they were still too slow compared to the bullets. After a scream, only the leading officer survived the entire team. It was not that the other party's reaction was fast enough, but Zuemo deliberately kept him. Before the officer could rejoice, Zuemo had already appeared in front of him. "Where is your mind shielding device?" In order to prevent the invasion of telepaths, a mind shielding device was built in this building of the Trask Group. Mutants with psychic abilities will have their abilities suppressed within this range. "I don't." He felt a sharp pain in his shoulder just as he was halfway through his words. His broken right arm fell to the ground, and a flying knife flashing with cold light appeared in the air beside Zuemo, without a trace of blood on it. "Other man!" screamed. Zuemo looked at him calmly. "I'll give you another chance to organize your words. I say, the officer shouted in panic. A moment later, Zuemo and the other person had disappeared from the room, leaving only a huge ice sculpture. In just a few days, Anna's outlook on life has changed dramatically. Thinking of the experiences of the past few days, she had no good feelings towards those who persecuted mutants the first time she killed someone. She didn't have a trace of fear in her heart, but instead had a hint of excitement. The second floor. Below ground in the building. Zuemo looked at the huge device 6 or 7 meters high in front of him, and there were 2 sentry robots on duty around the device. Seeing the 2 people who suddenly appeared in the room. An electronic synthesized sound came out of the sentry robot's mouth. "No ID card information detected." Before the words fell, the red light in the robot's eyes went out. Zuemo glanced at the device in front of him, and the whole device instantly gathered in the middle to form a huge metal ball. As the mind shielding device failed, a space door opened on the side. On the other side, Emma, who was taking a shower, looked at Zuemo on the side of the space door, and a trace of helplessness appeared on her face. With a calm expression, she took a bath towel from the side and wrapped it around her body. "Boss, if you have something next time, can you call me first to notify me?" Hearing this, Zuemo's face also showed a trace of embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I didn't expect you to take a shower at noon. Women take showers, but they don't divide time." And eyes kept sweeping over the two of them. Judging from her woman's intuition and the other party's calm expression, there was something between the two. After a while, Anne looked at Emma, who had changed her clothes and walked out of the space door and hugged Zuemo's arm directly, as if to declare sovereignty. Emma's eyes swept over Anne's neck, which was raised like a fighting cock. She smiled indifferently. Then a silver light flashed in Emma's eyes, and her psychic ability swept around frantically. "Trask Group," she muttered in a low voice, and then asked Zuemo, "Boss, what do you need to do?" "Take away all the technicians and information." "Simple." Emma nodded. Inside the building, the researchers were stunned at the same time, and after looking at each other, they began to organize the information in their hands in an orderly manner. During this period, the senior executives of the Trask Group were all stunned in place, and those insignificant personnel like cleaners left directly under Emma's control. A few hours later, with the closing of the space door, the bottom of the Trask building emitted a violent roar and slowly collapsed. Back to the island of death. Zuemo handed all these people and the sentinel robots in the ring to Emma, and then took Anne back to the villa by the sea. After calling her family, Annie coquettishly nestled in Zuemo's arms. "Thank you, dear. In her opinion, Zuemo destroyed both organizations for her. She was naturally extremely moved. Zuemo reached out and hugged the other soft waist. No, I don't need this kind of verbal thanks, Annie. Heard this and a different smile appeared on her face. Then, do you want to try the cool feeling? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Dreaming Parallel Universe. Shield. What? Zoo did this? Nick Fury stood up from his seat in shock, staring at Natasha opposite him. Of course, I was there at the time. Natasha nodded since Zuemo took her directly to the island. She knew that the other party was deliberately showing it to Shield, so she did not hide this from the director. Don't joke, Natasha. This is not funny. Agent Hill, who was standing by, put one hand on his waist and clicked a few times on the screen in front of him, with an expression of disbelief on his face. The signal you sent half an hour before the incident was still in Florida. How could it reach the Sentinel Special Service in New York in a few minutes? I don't know the specific situation. Zoo just stretched out his hand and drew a circle in front of him, and a channel appeared in front of him. As she said, Natasha stretched out her hand and imitated Zuemo's movements twice. I know it sounds a bit magical, but it is indeed true. At the end, Natasha felt that her words were not convincing. I believe what you said. At this time, Nick Fury, who sat back in his chair, spoke. I have seen records about this kind of magic in a secret file. That's right. Natasha smiled excitedly. At that time, the other party claimed that this was a kind of magic. It seems that I made the right choice again this time. Nick Fury smiled. The stronger Zuemo's strength was, the greater the return on their previous investment would be for Shield Point in the single dormitory assigned by Shield Point. After reporting on her work, Natasha couldn't wait to come back here. Point took out the booklet containing the Thunderblade from her pocket and studied it carefully. The more she studied, the more excited she became. Point more than half an hour later, she came to the training room downstairs in the dormitory. Point her fighting training since childhood has made her control over her body almost perfect. Point come to the sandbags where she usually trains. Natasha recalled the way to exert force recorded in the first level of Thunderblade. She slowly clenched her right fist and hit the sandbag hard. No, at the moment of punching, she knew that her way of exerting force was wrong. Point. After retracting her fist, she kept trying according to her feeling. Point until 3 hours later, after throwing hundreds of punches, Natasha almost wanted to give up. Point in anger, she punched the sandbag casually. She subconsciously exerted force according to the method in the secret book. The two forces were superimposed almost instantly. Boom. A bang echoed in the training room. The sandbag in front of her collapsed directly under the huge force. Natasha looked at her hands in disbelief. I really practiced it. At that moment, she excitedly took out her mobile phone and wanted to call Zuemo to thank him, but she then realized that she didn't seem to have Zuemo's phone number. She secretly made up her mind to thank him in person in a few days. Thinking of Zuemo's previous instructions, she memorized the contents of the booklet. Point then she destroyed it directly. Death Island. Point Zuemo sat in the training room of the Star Tower after Annie stayed on the island for one night. Zuemo sent her back home. Point she had decided to stay on the island in the future, but before that, she had to go back home to spend some time with her parents. There were many people who died in Zuemo's hands yesterday, but they were just ordinary people, and the total points they got did not exceed 50,000. Point these points are just a drop in the bucket for him now. However, this time he broke through to the planetary level spiritualist, and he felt that the dream walking technique should be able to be successfully performed. He had already told Emma not to disturb him during this period. At this moment, as the Dark God book appeared in front of him and slowly turned to a page of the dream walking technique, Zuemo closed his eyes. The dream walking technique that had troubled him for a long time was surprisingly performed smoothly. At the moment the spell was completed, Zuemo only felt that his soul flew out of his body, and then the dark god book in front of him turned into a black stream of light, entered the center of his soul's eyebrows, and formed a magic symbol at the center of his eyebrows. Then, the soul was sucked into a vortex. When he woke up, he was already standing in an unknown space. He looked in front of him. The spectacular scene in the distance made him scream. At the end of the void in front of him, there was a huge sphere, and a thick and shining line extended from the sphere. After the line extended for a distance, a fork was formed. And after the two forks extended for a distance, they split again. In the end, the original light had split into countless lines. These lines were thick and thin, like branches split from a giant tree, gradually spreading out. Zuemo learned from the records in the Dark God book that each of these lines represents a parallel world, and the stronger the supernatural power of the world, the thicker the line point, and those thinnest lines are worlds without supernatural power. Looking at the lines of his world in the branches, it was like the trunk of a tree, especially thick. It seems that the world I am in is the ceiling of the combat power level in these parallel worlds. Zuemo sighed. According to the records of the dream walking technique, as long as you touch those lines, you can enter the parallel world corresponding to the lines. And the self in the parallel world, as a person who is 100% compatible with his soul, naturally becomes the best carrier of the soul. For the first time, to perform the dream walking technique, Zuemo planned to choose a world without extraordinary existence. To practice. At this moment, his illusory body flew towards the thinnest line. The moment he approached the line, he felt a suction force. The suction force was not strong, and he felt that he could easily break free at any time, but he did not resist the suction force. Instead, he plunged into this world along the suction force. A feeling of dizziness came. When he woke up again, Zuemo found himself lying in a room. Next to him, there was a blonde girl with big waves. The special smell in the room and the piles of toilet paper on the ground all indicate that a big battle has just happened here. At this time, the blonde girl stood up from the bed. She showed her figure in front of Zuemo without any care. I have to leave quickly. Jim has asked me to go to the movies with him tonight. Who is Jim? Zuemo muttered subconsciously. This dream walking technique is equivalent to occupying the magpie's nest. It will not absorb the other party's soul. Naturally, he has no memory of this body in his mind. But from the name, this should be a man. Going to the movies with another man, but the other party said it in front of him, so there should be no problem between the two of them. When the blonde girl heard his question, a strange smile flashed in her blurred eyes. Jim is of course my boyfriend. What? Hearing this, Zuemo's face was full of question marks, but he reacted instantly and couldn't help but sigh in his heart that the parallel world of himself still inherited the legacy of the Prime Minister when he woo. Seeing Zuemo's surprised expression after hearing it. Okay, stop pretending. I said I wanted to break up with him, but you disagreed. Hearing this, Zuemo's pupils instantly dilated. Damn it. Chapter 56 Zombie World. A few minutes later, Zuemo looked at the blonde girl who staggered away. He was speechless sitting on the bed. He sensed his own strength. During the exercise just now, he had already discovered that his body in this world was already relatively strong among ordinary people. Otherwise, his endurance would not be able to reach the level of more than an hour. But that's all. Mental power can still be used, but it is limited by the strength of the body. At present, it can only exert the strength of an intermediate warrior. If it is stronger, it is not impossible to use it, but the body may not be able to support it for long before it collapses. Black magic is not affected by anything. After all, this is borrowing power. As long as your soul is strong enough, there will be no effect when it is used. It seems that after using the dream walking technique, the biggest reliance is black magic. Zuemo came to this conclusion. Of course, under the nourishment of mental power, the strength of the body is also gradually increasing. According to the current speed, if this body stays in this world for a year, it will reach the peak of the god of war. But he didn't think he would stay in this ordinary world for a year. He took his cell phone from the cabinet next to him. He looked at the time on it, September 6th, 2008. The time in this world is not much different from the original world. He got up and went to the computer that was playing a short movie. Zuema began to search for some news on the web, intending to learn about this strange world. A few minutes later, Zuemo closed the webpage. This is indeed just an ordinary world, without Iron Man and Stark Group. Everything seems to be no different from the world trajectory of his previous life. At this time, there was a hurried knock on the door. Zuemo put on his clothes, came to the door in confusion, and opened the door. Standing outside the door was a white young man with a slightly fat body. The other party was about the same age as himself, about 20 years old, with short hair, and a freckled face full of anxiety. Zoo, come with me. Seeing Zuemo opened the door, the fat man pulled him up, and came to a pickup truck at the gate of the yard without saying anything. Wait, Zuemo broke free from the other's arm without leaving a trace. You have to tell me where to go, right? Although he didn't know the other person, judging from the other person's words and deeds, he might be his friend. No time to explain. Get in the car. The fat man hurriedly opened the passenger door and pushed Zuemo in. He returned to the driver's seat and stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The pickup truck roared and rushed away. Zuemo hesitated for a moment and did not resist, not to mention that the other person looked like his friend. Even if he was a bad guy with his own strength, there was nothing to be afraid of in this world without supernatural power. After the car drove a distance, Zuemo also found something wrong. From the surrounding situation, he could easily know that the villa he lived in should be located in the suburbs, and there were usually few cars passing by this road in front of the door, but just in less than a few minutes, he had seen more than a dozen cars passing by them at high speed. What happened? He looked at the fat man with a puzzled look. The car driving at high speed seemed to give him some sense of security. After organizing his words, the fat man began to explain. Rabies virus. Now the city is full of people infected with rabies virus. These people bite anyone they see, and even the police can't stop them. And I got a rumor from the internet that the whole Boston has fallen. Rabies virus. Zuemo's eyes jumped. It's a zombie. Zombies. After hearing this, the fat man showed a puzzled look on his face. What are zombies? Before Zuemo could answer, he saw two cars that collided at the corner of the road ahead, and thick smoke was coming out. A staggering figure slowly walked down from the car. It's really a zombie. Seeing the other party's walking posture, Zuemo's heart moved. When the car got closer, Zuemo realized that he seemed to have thought too much. This staggering figure was the blonde who had left his home not long ago, and the reason why she walked like this was caused by herself. No wonder she looked familiar from a distance. As the car approached, the blonde also saw the fat man and Zuemo sitting in the car. She waved to the two of them. Seeing this, the fat man stopped the car next to the blonde. Zuemo and the other person got out of the car. The blonde hurt forward, hugged Zuemo's arm, and explained, I didn't speed. He hit me on his own initiative, but the other party seemed to faint in the collision, and I couldn't open the door to save him. She showed a trace of fear on her face. Zuemo ignored the other party, but stared straight at the other party's car. Although he couldn't see the situation inside the car through the glass, the scene of the car still appeared clearly in his mind. With his mental power, the blonde should be thankful she didn't open the car door at this time. In the cab of the car, a middle-aged man with a ferocious face was twitching violently. Moreover, he stared at this side and let out a series of low roars from his mouth. What a zombie! His eyes were not surprised, but happy. Zombies pose no threat to him who can fly. And if you can get points by killing zombies, then earning points will become extremely easy. Thinking of this, Zuemo couldn't wait to try it. With a thought, a screw inside the car came off the body and shot into the zombie's mind with powerful kinetic energy. It's almost common sense for zombies to hit you between the eyebrows. As the zombie's twitching body calmed down, a system prompt sounded in Zuemo's mind. Congratulations to the host, you killed the villain and gained 1 point. Are there really any points? Zuemo had an expression of surprise on his face. Although there is only 1 point, how many zombies can there be in a world where a zombie virus breaks out? A conservative estimate is between 2 and 3 billion. If all these zombies were killed. Of course, these are just Zuemo's conjectures. With his current strength, if he wants to clean up the zombies in the entire world, he doesn't know how long it will take. During this period of time, there will be no loss of zombies. But even if he could kill 1% of the zombies, he would still have tens of millions of points. Thinking of this, Zuemo's lips became harder to suppress than axe. The blonde girl on the side noticed the corners of Zuemo's raised lips and tapped his arm anxiously. Stop laughing. Help save people quickly. The other party's voice brought Zuemo back from his thoughts, and he turned to look at the blonde girl beside him. Excuse me, what is your name? Hearing this, the blonde girl looked stunned for a moment, and then a look of disbelief appeared on her face. Pointer's also chest heaved with anger. You scumbag, I'm still in your shape now, and you actually ask me what my name is? Chapter 57 Taboo of Black Magic, Necromancy. The fat man Harry standing next to them came up to dissuade them. Alyssa, don't be like this. Zoo was just joking with you. Obviously, he and Alyssa knew each other. After hearing this, Alyssa did not refute, but still stared at Zuemo angrily. Listen to me, the most important thing now is to leave here first. The city is very dangerous now, Harry persuaded. As soon as the voice fell from the distance of the street, a burst of noisy sounds came. It sounded like some kind of roar. Almost in the blink of an eye, a dense line of figures appeared in the sight of the three. Harry looked at these figures at the end of the road, and his face changed. He was too familiar with this running posture, which was exactly those monsters infected with rabies virus. The two people running in the front were knocked to the ground by the zombies behind them in a moment. The rest of the zombies rushed towards the three people. Not, but, go. After saying that, he rushed to the cab. The blonde girl Alyssa was staring at the scene in the distance, and she was stunned. Zuemo was staring at the running zombies. Unlike the zombies he had seen in the movies before, the group in front of him ran very fast, comparable to the world sprint champion. At this speed, there was almost no hope of escaping from these zombies by relying on his legs alone. Alyssa also reacted at this time. No longer caring about the driver of the colliding car, he rushed towards the pickup truck. At the same time, he did not forget to pull Zuemo, who was still standing there. Zuemo saw that the other party did not forget to pull him up at this time, and could not help but look at him more. She did not expect that the other party would still think about her at this time. Zuemo pushed her gently. Alyssa fell into the portal that suddenly opened in the back. When she reacted, she found that she had sat in the back seat of the pickup truck. You two leave first. After saying that, Zuemo walked towards the group of zombies in the back like a leisurely stroll. Harry, who started the car, saw this scene and his face changed drastically. Zoo, are you crazy? He stretched his head out of the car and roared. But then he saw that Zuemo did not stop, so Harry slapped the steering wheel. He gritted his teeth and was about to drive the car back to intercept Zuemo, who was walking towards the zombies. But before he stepped on the accelerator, he saw a horrifying scene in front of him. Zuemo stretched out his hand and waved gently. There was a villa on the right side of the road, and all the nails on the wooden fence outside were withdrawn, and hundreds of them gathered in front of him. With a flick of his finger, these iron nails flew towards the zombie group in the distance. Considering the material of the iron nails, Zuemo controlled these iron nails to penetrate through the zombies' nostrils and eyes, and after destroying the opponent's brain, they flew out again. In less than 5 seconds, hundreds of zombies on the road all fell to the ground while running. Harry, sitting in the car, opened his eyes wide. Wow. Zuemo's actions had a severe impact on his worldview. He opened the car door and got out of the car, ran to Zuemo's side, and looked at the zombie corpses covering a large area of the ground in front of him. Zoo, just now. He was so excited that he pointed at Zuemo with both hands, and then pointed at the zombies on the ground. His eyes switched back and forth between the two. Zuemo turned around. This is not a good place to talk. Oh, right. Harry also reacted. The roar just now may have attracted more of these things nearby. It's better to leave here first. Thinking of this, he and Zuemo returned to the car again. With a roar, the car sped away. However, in the following time, Harry drove the car, while his eyes kept sweeping to Zuemo in the co-pilot. And Zuemo fell into deep thought. In just a few seconds, more than 800 points were earned. Logically speaking, the speed of earning points is not slow. However, with his current physical condition, he cannot use his telekinesis for too long, unless he spends points to exchange for some treasures. to improve the strength of this body. In this way, not only will the points be wasted, but killing zombies will also be time consuming and laborious. Wait. Zuemo suddenly thought of a way. The dark book suddenly shot out from his forehead. He flipped through it frantically in front of him, and finally turned to the last few pages. These pages record a branch of black magic, the necromancy. Necromancer is almost the most evil branch of black magic in the main universe, with the protection of Vishanti and the Ancient One. Once the necromancy is performed, it is easy for them to sense it, thus ushering in huge trouble. This is also the reason why these magics have never appeared in the main world. Even Zuemo only browsed it roughly to avoid getting into trouble. But this world is different. This is just an ordinary world. There is no Ancient One, and it is not the territory of Vishanti. There is no problem using the magic of the dead. Soon, the dark book turned to a page with a hexagram drawn on it. That's it. Zuemo showed an excited smile on his face. The magic recorded on the page is called the Scourge of the Undead. A huge magic circle can be set up within a certain range. After the magic circle is activated, all living beings or corpses in this range can be transformed into undead creatures. I can completely set up a magic circle that covers the entire city and transform the zombies in the entire city into an army of undead. At that time, the undead army of undead can completely replace me to clean up the zombies in this world. However, to set up this formation, some special materials are needed, and auxiliary formations are set up at the 5 corners of the city. Next, he must first collect the materials needed to make the formation. Put the magic book back. Zuemo looked up at the 2 people who were staring at him. After seeing the strange book in front of Zuemo disappear, Harry finally plucked up the courage to speak. Are you magic? Yeah. Zuemo nodded. There is no need to hide this from them. Judging from Harry's previous actions, he is obviously his best friend. Not to mention that he risked his life to come to my house to pick me up just when I wanted to deal with the zombies. He drove the car to save me without hesitation. Just these 2 points, I know that he is definitely a friend worth making. The same is true for Alyssa behind. Although the 2 are just friends, she still did not forget to pull me when she escaped. It was not until then that Zuemo realized that Alyssa in the back row was looking at him excitedly. What are you doing? Do you think I'm a material for learning magic? No, you are a muggle. Zuemo rejected the other party without hesitation. If I really give it to the other party, I'm afraid it will harm her. Without the dark book, she needs to borrow mana, and she will probably become a puppet of Zisson soon. No. He suddenly thought that, since Zisson can lend magic, can he lend the mana of the dark book? Anyway, with Zisson, a power bank with unlimited battery life, the source of mana is not a problem. By then, I should be able to get some points from those who borrowed the power and killed the villains. After all, I have contributed. No, I have to find a way to try it. Zuemo secretly made up his mind. Chapter 58. It's okay, just be more careful in your next life. Hear Zuemo's words. Alyssa had a disappointed expression on her face. Zuemo ignored the other party and turned to look at Harry, who was driving the vehicle. Where are you going? Judging from the route of the vehicle driven by the other party, it was obvious that he had planned where he was going. It will get dark in an hour at most. Zuemo also planned to find a place to rest first and collect materials needed to assist the formation. Go to the beach. As he spoke, Harry clicked a few times on the car's screen and pointed to a certain location on the map. Judging from the news we received before, the safest place right now is the sea. A yacht I bought before is parked at this location. As long as we board the yacht, we will be safe for the time being. Zuemo nodded after hearing this. Being able to afford a yacht, it seems that this friend of mine is still a rich second generation. Judging from the map, it's still 10 minutes drive from that location point, and there happens to be a large supermarket on the road where you can collect some food. His body is still that of an ordinary person. After traveling through time, he experienced 2 battles. His physical strength was severely exhausted, and he felt a strong sense of hunger in his belly. Without Zuemo's reminder, Harry drove the car and parked directly at the entrance of the large supermarket. Apparently the other party had the same idea. At this time, the entire supermarket was in chaos. A group of people ran out of the supermarket, each pushing a cart with something. Wait. For us in the car, Emo gave instructions to Alyssa behind him, then got out of the car and rushed into the supermarket with Harry. The shelves in the supermarket have been knocked upside down by panicked people, and the items on the shelves have been scattered all over the floor. Fortunately, the scale of the supermarket is not small. After people's frantic snatching, there are still a lot of things on the shelves. The two of them each pushed a cart from the door and joined in the crazy $0 shopping point. A few minutes later, the two of them came outside pushing a cart filled with food. Harry glanced at where the car was parked in the distance and his expression changed. Something happened. Without his reminder, Emo had already seen the scene in the distance. At this time, a man pushing a cart and holding a gun pointed the muzzle of the gun at the car window and pulled the trigger in his hand. However, the scene where the bullet shattered the car window as he expected did not occur. The gun in the man's hand exploded with a loud bang, blowing out several of the man's fingers. A scream came from his mouth. The man covered his right hand and slowly fell to his knees. This is of course Emo's handwriting. In an instant, the two men stepped forward. Emo kicked the man away of them, poured the contents of the cart into the pickup truck, including the one being pushed by the man who was kneeling on the ground. Fortunately, the back compartment of the pickup truck is big enough to hold 3 large trucks of food. The man who was kneeling on the ground wanted to resist. When he saw this, Harry took out a pistol from his body and pulled the trigger without hesitation. It was obvious that this was Harry's first time killing someone. After pulling the trigger, his breathing became a little rapid and his hands trembled a little. But the other party took a few deep breaths. The nervousness after the first murder was quickly suppressed. After getting in the car, Alyssa, who was sitting in the back, looked at Emo excitedly. "Did you just do it?" After receiving Emo's recognition, her longing for the mage became a little brighter. "It's really amazing." Soon, the car entered a yacht harbor on the seaside. Following the path in his memory, Harry quickly stopped beside a pure white luxury yacht. Emo sighed as he looked at another car parked next to the yacht and a few figures flashing past in the yacht. "It seems that someone got there before us and took your yacht as his own." Harry didn't panic at all. "Don't worry, this yacht has the most advanced anti-theft system. Without the key in my hand, they can't let the yacht move at all." After saying that, he took out another pistol from the storage box of the car and handed it to Emo. Although magic is very useful, this thing might come in handy. Emo did not refuse, but took the pistol. The 3 people got out of the car. Several people in the cabin should have noticed the movement here. A man pokes his head out from the yacht. "Guys, this is our territory. I advise you to leave as soon as possible." At the same time, several black gun muzzles stuck out from the windows of the yacht. Obviously, he was showing off his own strength, causing them to retreat in spite of difficulties. After Harry heard it, he shouted towards the other party, "Listen, I'm the owner of this yacht. You bandits get off my yacht right now." After hearing his words, there was a commotion from the opposite yacht. Then the man who shouted before showed his head. "How do you prove that this yacht is yours?" Harry didn't waste any time and pressed a button on the key in his hand. The 3 sides of glass on the yacht deck are directly received below the deck, revealing the scene inside. Seeing this scene, the man's eyes lit up. Then he retracted directly into the cabin. Almost instantly, a tongue of flame erupted from the muzzle of the gun protruding from the cabin. The other party actually opened fire directly at several people. Emo sighed when he saw this. The bullets that were shot at them were suspended in the air. "I just told you that there is no need to show mercy to these people." After saying that, he waved his right hand lightly and all the guns in the yacht flew out and fell into his hands. Holding the gun in his hand, Emo pointed at the hiding place of the people on the opposite side. "Come out." The 5 people in the cabin had long been subdued by Emo's methods. Now the guns were taken away by him again. In desperation, they raised their hands and walked out of the cabin tremblingly. Emo and the other 2 pointed their guns at them and slowly walked onto the yacht. "Get off the boat." Hearing Emo's words, these people breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. It seems that the other party just wants to take back the yacht and has no intention of killing them. Thinking of this, several people despise them a little bit in their hearts. It has come to this point and they are still merciful. Alyssa watched Emo let the other party leave the yacht hurried to his side and whispered, "We can't let them go. They just wanted to kill us." However, this was still heard by the leading man, who turned his head and waved his hand anxiously. "No, we didn't mean that." Just now the glass window suddenly slid down, which caused us to accidentally pull the trigger. Mo showed a gentle smile on his face. "It doesn't matter, just be more careful in the next life." After saying that, he pulled the trigger in his hand directly, and the automatic rifle sprayed a tongue of fire. Nearly 50 bullets were emptied in an instant, and the few people in the distance were all shot into sieves. The reason why he let the other party go ashore was not to let them go. It was just to avoid dirtying the yacht. After all, he had to stay on it at night. Though the smell of blood on the boat was a bit disgusting. Chapter 59 Zombie World War. Several people moved all the supplies in the car to the yacht. After a while, the yacht slowly sailed away from the harbor at night. In a bedroom of the yacht, Mo was searching on the computer. There are not many types of things needed to make auxiliary magic arrays. The main thing is mithril. This thing is simple, but it is made of silver through a special secret method. However, if you want to carve magic array that can cover the entire city, the amount required is very large, and hundreds of tons of silver are required. If the amount is scarce, it is easy to say. But such a large amount of silver must be looted from several large silver storage warehouses. Obviously. There is no way to find the exact address of these warehouses on the internet. I must find an expert in this area. At this time, a knock on the door came from outside. Then Alyssa walked in from outside, closed the door, and locked it directly. "Honey, do you need any special service?" "How special, Mo put away the note in his hand and looked at the other person's outfit. She didn't know where she found the same angel cosplay costume as Leomar's ex-girlfriend. After coming in, she turned around in front of Mo. "Angels. Free upgrade service can help you. The Great Wizard. Strengthen your magic wand and directly upgrade it to purple equipment." Early the next morning. Mo woke up with a knock on the door. He opened his eyes and glanced at Alyssa, who was still sleeping. He got up and walked to the door and opened it. Outside the door, it was Harry with dark circles under his eyes. Just now, a broadcast was received on the radio. The other party reported a location, claiming that it was the official fleet location, and called on various ships nearby to join the fleet. "What do you mean?" Mo looked at the other party and asked. "I don't count the past." Mo nodded. The other party's idea coincided with his. Relying on the supplies on the ship alone, they can last at least more than a month. Besides, if he wanted, Mo could fill the entire ship with supplies. There was no need to join the other party's fleet. In such a doomsday environment, it was still unknown who controlled these fleets. If he went up rashly, he might put himself in danger. Although Mo was not afraid of the other party in terms of his ability, there was no need to cause trouble. But Mo himself planned to go to the ship to investigate. Judging from yesterday's situation, the zombie virus should have just broken out. If we talk about the current situation in various countries and cities in the world, these official agencies are naturally the most clear. There may still be cities that have not been completely occupied by zombies. If there are such cities, you only need to find the location of the silver vault from the silver shop. But if there is really no way, he can only choose the dumbest way. Collect slowly from silver shops one by one. After saying hello to Harry, Mo returned to the cabin, opened a space door, and walked in. On an ocean 200 nautical miles away from New York, there was a huge fleet floating around, or it would be more appropriate to call it a fleet. In the center of the fleet was an aircraft carrier. There were several cruisers and destroyers around, and the rest were some civilian ships and yachts. Inside the aircraft carrier, in the fleet commander's room, a short-haired white man in his 40s was enjoying his breakfast. Although the end of the world has come. But Kevin, who controls an aircraft carrier fleet, has not lost his quality of life. Put a piece of medium rare top steak into his mouth. He closed his eyes and felt the sauce exploding in his taste buds. When he opened his eyes, a short-haired Chinese man was standing in front of him. Kevin's expression changed. "Who are you and how did you get in?" As he said that, he opened his mouth to call the soldiers. Mo put his index finger to his mouth, signaling the other party to be quiet point at the same time. A black light flashed in Kevin's eyes, and his face instantly became a little dull. Soul stealing. A small spell recorded in the Dark God book. The effect is similar to hypnosis. After it is cast, the other party will answer truthfully, no matter what you ask. Zuemo sat down calmly. What is the situation in each country now? Where did the virus come from, and how did it spread? After a moment, Zuemo let out a long breath, and then stood up. Learned from the other party. At present, the military does not know where the virus came from, nor does it understand how it spreads. Since yesterday afternoon, nearly half of the cities in all countries in the world, including Boston where Zuemo is, have all fallen. And this morning, zombies also appeared in those cities that have not fallen. According to this situation, by noon today, almost all cities will become a paradise for zombies. After receiving this news, Zuemo did not hesitate. He stepped directly into the Space Gate New York on a remote street. Zuemo stepped out of the Space Gate at the end of the street is the famous 5th Avenue before coming. Zuemo checked on the internet, and it is said that this street has the largest silver jewelry store in New York. Just after walking out of the Space Gate, Zuemo heard screams coming from 5th Avenue. Hearing this, Zuemo walked a few steps to the intersection. The street was already crowded with vehicles. On the road, countless zombies chased and bit the driver, who got off the car. He did not hesitate and turned to the right. The silver jewelry store was about 100 meters to the right. After running a few steps, he was spotted by several zombies on the side. These zombies roared and pounced on him. Zuemo saw this and waved his right hand gently. Countless steel nails appeared around him and shuttled around him at a high speed. Before these zombies could get close, they were pierced through the brain by steel nails and slowly fell to the ground. Not far away, a family of 4 who were running saw the steel nails flying around Zuemo, and their faces showed surprise. After realizing that Zuemo was very safe, the man ran towards Zuemo with his wife and children. Save us, my daughter has asthma. I'm willing to give everything, as long as you can take us away. Zuemo had no intention of paying attention to them, but after he glanced at the faces of several people, he was stunned for a moment. These people looked familiar, especially the man with medium-length hair, whose face was 90% similar to Brad Pitt. Instantly, a flash of lightning flashed through Zuemo's mind. Zombies, aircraft carriers, Pitt, a daughter with asthma. The name of movie appeared in his mind. World War Z. Chapter 60, Fall of New York. It took more than 20 years. I have almost forgotten the memory of this movie. All I know is that in the end, the protagonist's family of 4 were taken to the aircraft carrier and then sent to various places to find ways to solve the zombie virus. In the end, the male protagonist discovered that zombies do not bite patients with various diseases. As a result, a vaccine that disguises the disease was developed. After being injected, ordinary people will not be attacked by zombies. As for the specific process, he could no longer recall it. But it doesn't matter. In fact, it doesn't matter to him whether he knows the plot or not. Seeing the protagonist's family standing in front of him, Zuemo hesitated before speaking. It's safe to follow me, but it's up to whether you can follow me. After saying that, Zuemo ignored them and entered the nearby silver jewelry store after a running start. At this time, the silver jewelry store was already in chaos. Several zombies were lying on the body of a female clerk and biting each other. The clerk beneath them seemed to be dying. The power of thought spreads around like a tide. With his current mental power, he can only cover a distance of 50 meters around him. However, although this bank store is not small, it obviously does not exceed the scope of his telekinesis. In an instant, Zuemo discovered 2 women wearing work clothes in a bathroom near the corner. One of them is obviously different from the others. I think this is her owner. Zuemo stretched out his hand and waved a few steel nails through the zombie's eyebrows. Then the entire store, including the silver jewelry and the small warehouse behind, flew towards Zuemo. With a gentle wave of his hand, he put it into the storage ring on his finger. I'm still not sure if I can find the place where the silver is stored. Now that they're all in the store, I naturally have to put them all away. This ring was redeemed by him in the morning. It is the same size as his original one and has a full 1000 cubic meters of space. According to the density of silver, the volume of 1 ton is less than 0.01 cubic meters. This storage ring is naturally more than enough to hold several hundred tons. The Wren family who were following Zuemo were stunned when they saw this scene. It's amazing. Where did those things go? There were exclamations from his wife and daughter's mouths. Wren made a silent gesture. As a federal investigator, he had long discovered that these monsters seemed to have very developed hearing, and the slightest movement could attract those monsters. Although those monsters were like ants in the hands of this magical Asian young man in front of him, they could be easily crushed to death point, but they rely on each other to survive. If they can't help, they can't cause trouble to each other. Zuemo ignored the people behind him and walked straight to the bathroom door. The door opens automatically. When the two people hiding in the room saw the door being opened, they held their heads and screamed, "Shut up, Zuemo!" scolded. The two people who closed their eyes realized that the person who opened the door and came in was not that kind of monster. Seeing Zuemo standing outside the door, they both let out a sigh of relief. Zuemo's eyes fell on the Asian woman with ponytails among the two. The woman is about 1.6 meters tall, and her skin is so fair that it seems to shine. "Ah, you the owner of this store?" The woman nodded with a confused look on her face. "That's right." Then the woman remembered to introduce herself. "Hello, my name is Kim Tae-hee, Nanbang. People." Zuemo was only slightly surprised. But this is obviously not a good place to talk. "Follow me." He turned and walked toward the wall behind him. At the same time, a space door slowly opened on the wall. When Kim Tae-hee saw this scene, she screamed in surprise, but immediately covered her mouth with her hands. Through the space door, you can see that the other side seems to be in a mountain forest. She stepped forward cautiously, stretched out her fingers slowly towards the space door, and after confirming that it was the real world over there, she took steps to walk in. After seeing her successfully pass through, the remaining Wren family and another female clerk walked in. After everyone passed through, the space door slowly closed. Zuemo looked at everyone except Jin Tae-hee. "It's safe here for the time being. It's up to you whether the rest of us can survive." After hearing this, Wren quickly stepped forward and thanked him. "Thanks." At this time, his phone rang. After an apologetic look, he went to the side and answered the phone. Zuemo looked at Jin Tae-hee and asked straight to the point, "Do you know where there is a lot of silver?" "Silver? Of course I know. Our family is in the silver jewelry business." She didn't hide anything from the man who saved her from a desperate situation. "But can you first explain what those monsters that rushed into the store and the circle you just opened are?" When Zuemo heard this, he told the other party that the entire world had become a zombie paradise. "What? Impossible." Upon hearing the news, not only Kim Tae-hee, but also another clerk and Lane's wife also looked in disbelief. "It's up to you to believe it or not, Zuemo had an indifferent expression on his face. Several people saw this and hurriedly took out their mobile phones because the zombie virus outbreak was still very short. The network and signal were not interrupted at this time. They all dialed a phone. Only the phone of another clerk was dialed. But before she could be happy, the roars and chewing sounds from the other side made her look drastically. No. The clerk's face changed drastically. It was obvious that the other side of the phone was a very good friend of him. Kim Tae-hee saw this scene and his face changed drastically. Just at this time, Ryan, who had just answered the phone, also came back. At this time, he looked solemn. "He is right. My friend who works in the White House has just confirmed this." After that, he set his sights on Zuemo. "My friend will send a helicopter to pick us up to the aircraft carrier at night. It is the only place that is safe and guaranteed now. Do you want to go with us?" "No." Zuemo simply rejected the other party's kindness. Then she looked at Kim Tae-hee, who was anxiously dialing the phone. "Where are the silver deposits?" "In Newark. There is a silver jewelry company that supplies almost 1/3 of the American silver jewelry market." Kim Tae-hee stared at the number broadcast on the phone and replied casually. Although she was very anxious now, she still answered all the questions about Zuemo, her lifesaver. Then she reported an address again. Looking at the phone that could not be dialed for a long time, she showed a dejected look on her face. Suddenly, she thought of something and looked at Zuemo with hope. Can you take me away? Chapter 61 Demonic Contract, Mana Bond. Kim Tae-hee's father died when she was a child. Her mother also died of illness a few years ago. Her only relative now is her sister, who is studying at a university in South Korea. She called her sister countless times just now, but she couldn't get through. She has only one belief in her heart now. Survive and go back to save her sister. Although she felt that her sister's chance of survival was not great after seeing the horror of those monsters, she was unwilling to give up. Even if she turned into a zombie, she would go to see her sister. She had seen the horror of that kind of monster before. If she relied on herself, let alone going back to South Korea to find her sister, it would be difficult to even leave the city. However, she had just seen Zuemo's magical methods. Dependence on the other party was the best choice for her. She was very clear about her appearance. Judging from her experience from childhood to adulthood, she was still attractive to men. But he didn't expect that. Zuemo shook his head after listening. I saved your life. You told me the location of the silver vault. We no longer owe each other anything. After saying that, a space door opened next to him, and he was about to step into the space door. Seeing that Zuemo was unmoved, Jin Tae-hee hurriedly spoke again. As long as you help me survive, I can do everything for it. Hearing this, the Ryan couple on the side did not show any surprise on their faces. In their opinion, it is understandable to make such a choice in order to survive. After hearing this, Zuemo stopped his steps. A trace of thought flashed across his face, and then he looked up and down at the other party. You really willing to give everything, including your soul, Kim? Tae-hee saw Zuemo's serious eyes, hesitated for a moment, and nodded fiercely. That's right. She had seen the other party's various magical things, so she naturally didn't think that the other party's words were just talk. When he heard this, the mark of the dark divine book on the center of his eyebrows emitted a gray light. Then a contract generated by light appeared in front of Kim Tae-hee. If you agree, sign this contract. You just need to touch the contract with your body and silently say you agree in your heart. After hearing this, Kim Tae-hee touched the contract in front of her without any hesitation. In an instant, a ray of light flew out from her eyebrows and entered the contract, and the contract turned into a stream of light and shot into the dark book in Zuemo's soul. Zuemo closed his eyes and felt it. He had a feeling that he could easily extract the other party's soul. In other words, the other party's life and death were already in his hands. This so-called demon contract is indeed magical. Yesterday he was thinking about how to develop a fline and lend out mana. The magic in the dark book needs to communicate with the underworld before practicing, which is equivalent to applying to the underworld for permission to borrow mana. Almost most people who practice magic take this method. Including Master Guyi. He also borrowed their power with the permission of Vishandi. In addition to this method, there is another way. Just like the demons like Mephisto, they lend their power to humans by signing a contract. And the dark book just happened to have this kind of contract. He just tried it out. He didn't expect it to work. Now Kim Tae-hee's life is in her hands. In return, she will be eligible to borrow magic power from her. Of course, it is actually borrowing the energy from the dark book. In the future, as long as she practices, she will be able to successfully perform dark magic. The moment she touched the demon contract, Kim Tae-hee successfully felt the content of the contract. Unexpectedly, she showed a hint of excitement on her face. Is this true? Can I be like you in the future? Her original plan was to sell her body and find an opportunity for the other party to send her back to South Korea. She didn't expect the other party to help her save her sister. After all, if she put herself in his shoes, she didn't think that the other party would risk going to South Korea to save people for a woman. But she didn't think about how to save her sister. After returning to South Korea. I can only take it one step at a time. I didn't expect that the contract the other party asked me to sign was so magical. Judging from the content of the contract, I can get the qualification to practice magic in the future. In this way, after returning to South Korea, she might really be able to rescue her sister. Of course, if her sister is still alive. Just when she was secretly ecstatic, the other party's voice appeared in her ears. Follow me, Emma ordered Jin Tae-hee, and went straight through the space gate. Since the contract has been successfully signed, the other party can be regarded as one of his own. As for the other few people, they have nothing to do with him. He is not a saint, and taking them out, by the way, is already a benevolent act. And the reason why he signed the contract with Jinty was that he had another plan in his mind. Even with the undead army, it is not a task that can be completed in a short time to clean up the zombies in this world. I can't stay in this world forever, so I need a trustworthy person to lead the army of undead here. Kim Tae-hee, who has signed the contract, is just the right person. Upon hearing this, Kim Tae-hee quickly followed Zuemo through the space gate. Watching the space gate slowly disappear in front of them, Ryan and the others showed envy in their eyes with this teleportation ability. Even in this apocalypse full of monsters, I'm afraid you can live a very comfortable life. Newark, a warehouse in the suburbs. Zuemo walked out of the space gate with Kim Tae-hee. Although it was the second time he saw this scene, Kim Tae-hee's face still flashed a hint of curiosity. He even planned to reach out and touch the sparks around the space gate. If you don't want to become a disabled person, I advise you to put away your damn curiosity. Emo's voice came from in front of her. Kim Tae-hee quickly retracted her outstretched hand. Upon hearing this, he looked around at the familiar environment. She was surprised to find that this was the factory outside the silver jewelry company she mentioned. She had been here several times before, so she could recognize it at a glance. How amazing, she exclaimed. I wonder if the other party can be teleported directly to South Korea. Seeing Zuemo walking towards the factory, she hurriedly followed him. At this time, there was no zombie on the ground in the factory except for a pool of blood. However, as they walked into the factory, they heard roars coming from a factory in the distance. After turning a corner, the door of the factory appeared in their sight. The door was closed. Zuemo directly opened the door with telekinesis. Looking inside through the door, there were zombies everywhere. In the door in front of the two, a female zombie in blue work clothes was lying on a corpse on the ground and biting it. The corpse had become incomplete under her biting. Hearing footsteps coming from the side. The female zombie turned around. Zuemo glanced at her. If you ignore the blood on her face, she is a beauty. The beautiful zombie didn't care about her image at all. She rushed towards Zuemo with her bloody mouth wide open. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Summoning the Undead. In a warehouse far from the factory. Two black strong men watched Zuemo open the door of the factory. John's face changed. Shit, damn bastard. It's so hard to lead all the zombies into the factory, and now he's going to let them out again. He retracted his head from the crack of the warehouse door. Don't worry about him seeking death. The food collected from the restaurant is enough for us to live for a long time. Maybe they will come to rescue us before the army is exhausted, Jim said with a sneer on his face. It's just a pity for that woman. He looked at Jinty, who was following Zuemo again with a lewd look. Although he couldn't see the other person's face because of the distance, just from the figure and fair skin, he was already a little eager to move. Now they are hiding in the warehouse, and there is no shortage of food. But there are only two big men. It's a bit boring to hide here for a long time. If there is a woman to accompany, it will undoubtedly add a lot of fun, but it's too late. Given the number of zombies in the factory, there was no chance for the two to survive. In the factory, standing behind Zuemo, Kim Tae-hee's face changed as she watched the zombies rushing over. Although in her opinion, Zuemo should be able to deal with these zombies, her instinct still made her feel a little scared. Zuemo waved his hand calmly. A steel nail shot into the female zombie's brow at a high speed. The female zombie fell to the ground with a plop. Kim Tae-hee didn't notice the flying steel nail at all. She only saw Zuemo wave his hand and the female zombie fell to the ground and lost his voice. The movement here quickly attracted all the zombies in the factory. The area of this factory is very large, covering several thousand square meters. There are rows of equipment neatly arranged inside. The gaps between these equipment are almost full of zombies covered in blood, and it is conservatively estimated that there are thousands of them. Zuemo did not show any surprise. Before he opened the door, he knew the situation inside through telekinesis. Looking at the zombies swarming over, countless steel nails appeared in front of him and then quickly shot towards the zombie group not far away. Under the rapid shuttle of these steel nails, the zombies fell in groups in less than a minute point. There was no standing zombie in the entire factory. Kim Teehee behind him opened her eyes wide and her lips slightly opened. Zuemo ignored her and walked directly to the innermost machine. Come out. After a while, a gap appeared in the shell of the machine in front of him, and an eye appeared behind the gap, looking out, and then the shell opened directly, and a figure covered with oil stains crawled out from inside. The gap inside was very narrow. If the man's figure was not relatively thin, he might not be able to get in. Are you an employee here? Zuemo looked at the employee who was looking at the surrounding environment and asked. The man looked at him with shock and nodded. You know, a few minutes ago, he secretly looked at the situation in the factory. At that time, these zombies were still alive and kicking, and they kept hitting the shell of the machine. If the shell was not strong enough, I'm afraid he would have become the food of the zombies. But I didn't expect that in just a few minutes, all these zombies had been killed. Obviously, all these zombies died at the hands of the two people in front of them. Take me to the warehouse, where the silver ore materials are stored. This factory is the production of silver products. The man works here, and it is impossible for him not to know where the material warehouse is. Okay, the man nodded without saying much. He knew very well that he had no right to refuse a ruthless man who could kill so many zombies in a moment. Besides, the other party was equivalent to saving his life. Even if the other party would not threaten him, he would not refuse this small request. You two go outside the factory and wait for me first. Zuemo ordered the two people. Looking at the two people who walked out, Zuemo walked to the center of the factory. The dark book appeared in front of him, and his body slowly floated up. Waves of dark energy overflowed from the dark book crazily. After overflowing, these energies directly turned into grayish white. Then they spread towards the zombie corpses on the ground. The gray energy penetrated directly into the corpses the moment it touched them. As more and more energy penetrated into them, the corpses began to mutate gradually, and the flesh and blood of these zombies gradually turned into energy and injected into the bones of the corpses as time passed. The flesh and blood on the zombie corpse closest to Zuemo had completely disappeared, revealing the white bones inside. The white bones at this time had become crystal clear, like white jade. Not only did the size increased by 1/3, but these skeletons also had various bone weapons in their hands. Knives, guns, shields and even bows and arrows. And the grey energy gradually gathered and compressed in the skulls of the skeletons. Until a certain moment, the dark energy that was compressed to the extreme collapsed and shrunk inward at a very fast speed. After shrinking to the extreme, a red flame appeared in the original place. The skeleton lying on the ground seemed to be given life and climbed up from the ground using its hands and feet, summoning the dead. It is also one of the undead magics recorded in the Dark God Book. Casting this magic can also summon various undead creatures to fight for you. Compared with the undead natural disaster, this magic can only be cast on a completely dead body, but the advantage is that it does not require the construction of an auxiliary magic circle. There are two ways to cast this magic. One is to directly summon the undead creatures from the undead continent in the underworld. The other is to cast it directly on the corpse like Zuemo. Compared with the former, the latter is relatively easier to cast, and because the undead creatures are created by the caster, there is no problem of loyalty. However, compared with the undead on the undead continent, these newly generated undead are often weaker in combat. The two people standing at the door looked at the terrifying scene inside, and their hair stood up. Moving skeletons. This kind of thing that appeared in movies and TV dramas before actually appeared in front of them. This is much more magical than zombies after all. Zombies can be attributed to some kind of virus, which can be explained by science. How can this thing be explained scientifically? They don't think that a virus can make a skeleton move. This is completely against common sense. Just as the two were watching with horror, a voice came from not far away from the two. Hey, Belle, I didn't expect you to survive. The two turned their heads and found two men standing dozens of meters away from them, each holding a fire axe. They were John and Jim hiding in the warehouse. Seeing the two, Belle's face turned red instantly. You two bastards, dare to appear in front of me. After saying that, He rushed directly towards the two people in the distance in anger, but the reality is cruel. He is thinner than the two of them, and in the case of 2 against 1, the other party still has a weapon in his hand. In less than 10 seconds, Bell was knocked to the ground by the two. Jim stepped on Bell with blood all over his face. It seems that you can't wait to see your dead father. Chapter 63 Skeleton Cavalry. The two of them were standing in a position where they could not see the scene in the factory. Originally, the two of them were in the warehouse, and they were very surprised when they suddenly saw the two people appear outside. They knew very well the number of zombies in the factory. No matter how they thought about it, they could not escape safely from inside. Until John made a guess. Could it be that all the zombies were dead? In their opinion, this kind of zombie is likely to be caused by a virus similar to rabies. Similar to rabies, the host will probably die quickly in a short time after being infected with this virus. The more they thought about it, the more they were sure of this guess. After confirming it, the two of them set their sights on the fair-skinned and beautiful Kim Tae-hee. Under normal circumstances, a woman of this appearance would never be the turn of ordinary workers like them. But the situation is different now. Although they don't know much about the situation outside, they also know something. At least this city is full of monsters infected with the virus, not to mention that the social order has collapsed and no one cares about these things anymore. Even if this virus only breaks out in this city, the army will soon come back to restore the order of this city. As long as the two of them are done, they will kill each other and then blame these monsters. They will not have any trouble. No matter how you calculate it, neither of them will have any impact. It was thinking of this that the two ran out of the warehouse directly. Bell, who fell to the ground, still had a trace of stubbornness on his face. You two bastards, I helped you lead all the zombies here. Why did you kill my father? Jim smiled sarcastically after hearing this. What's the point of keeping that old thing? Consuming our limited food. Besides, knowing that you were forced to die in the factory by us, your dead father must hate us to death. If we hadn't been on guard, I'm afraid that old thing would have stabbed us in the back. You bastards. Hearing this, the anger in Bell's eyes almost burst out. Impotent rage. John chuckled and raised the fire axe in his hand. Be good and go accompany your dead father. After saying that, the fire axe in his hand was about to chop down on the other person. Stop. At this time, Kim Tae-hee, who followed, also understood the whole story. It is obvious that the two men threatened Bell with his father's life to use some method to lead all the zombies in the factory into the factory and then kill old Bell. After shouting, she contacted Zuemo in the factory in her mind, and her figure slowly retreated. With the effect of the devil's contract, she and Zuemo can use the power of the contract to pass messages. She will not rush up stupidly. In terms of the size and strength difference between the two parties, it is no different from giving it away for free. Hearing her shout, Jim showed a lewd smile on his face. Don't worry, you can't run away. After saying that, he was about to chase after the other party. In the factory, Zuemo's spell casting had reached a critical moment. Among the thousands of skeleton soldiers that appeared, half of them disintegrated directly and turned into white bones. These bones flew up directly under some kind of force. Reassemble. A moment later, the outline of a skeleton cavalryman appeared. At this time, Zuemo, who received the message from Kim Tae-hee in his mind, had a thought. The flames in the heads of dozens of skeletons standing near the door burned violently. Then these skeletons holding knives and bows walked out of the door. Zuemo looked at the skeleton soldiers who walked out, retracted his gaze, and refocused his attention on the skeleton cavalrymen who were being assembled. There were nearly 500 skeleton soldiers, and only 36 cavalrymen were formed in the end. From the current prototype, the skeleton cavalrymen were 3 meters tall, holding a bone sword more than 2 meters long in their hands. It looked like oppression. The soul fires in the minds of those scattered skeletons were also gradually merging. Outside. Since Kim Tae-hee had been keeping a safe distance from the other party from the beginning, it was obviously impossible for Jim to catch up with the other party instantly. But he was not panicked. Judging from the running speed of the two, it would obviously not take long for the other party to catch up. At this moment. A group of skeleton soldiers with weapons in hand walked out of the factory door. Kim Tae-hee saw this scene and showed a hint of excitement on his face. But Jim, who was following him, changed his face and stopped on the spot after a sudden break. He looked at the skeleton soldiers walking towards Kim Tae-hee in doubt. What the hell? After hesitating for a moment, he turned around and ran towards the warehouse point. Although he didn't know what kind of monster this was, it was obvious that this thing couldn't be friends with him. Point in the distance. John, who was about to finish Belle off, also noticed the scene here. Seeing those walking skeletons, he was even more frightened. Shit. Throwing away the fire axe in his hand, he turned around and ran towards the warehouse. After the skeleton soldiers came out, they walked directly to Kim Tae-hee and protected her. Kim Tae-hee also gradually recovered from the shock of seeing this thing for the first time. He even stretched out his fingers and poked the skeleton soldier twice on the arm. However, the skeleton soldier didn't react, which gradually made her bolder. After seeing that the other two had been scared away, she ran directly towards Belle, who was lying on the ground. The surrounding skeleton soldiers also ran after him. Always keep her in the middle. After she stepped forward, Belle had slowly gotten up from the ground. At this time, he looked a little miserable, covered in dirt. His face was still bruised, and a few strands of blood flowed from his head to his face, making his face look a little scary at this time. Are you okay? Belle stretched out his hand to wipe the blood on his face and spoke in a low voice. I'm fine, but the hatred in his eyes could not be concealed. He picked up the fire axe that John had just thrown away from the ground and walked towards the warehouse with a calm expression. But after taking 2 steps, he stopped. The warehouse where the silver bricks are stored is in a warehouse in the southeast corner of the factory. With your abilities, the door lock shouldn't be a problem. After saying that, he glanced at the skeletons around him, turned around and continued walking towards the warehouse in the distance. Kim Tae-hee saw the decisive look in the other party's eyes. It was obvious that he was determined to die and wanted to fight those 2 people. He also seemed to know that after entering, he might not be a match for the 2 people and would not be able to come back alive, so he took the lead in telling them the location of the warehouse. Looking at the other party's leaving figure, Jin takes his expression changed. But after spotting the skeleton soldiers around her, her eyes moved and she tried to give an order to the nearest skeleton. Squat down. Chapter 64. Skeleton soldiers. Can they evolve? The dozen skeleton soldiers around squatted on the ground in unison. Seeing this, Kim Tae-hee shouted to Belle, who was walking away. Wait a minute. After saying that, she led the skeleton soldiers to chase after him. Not to mention Belle, the person involved. Even she hated those 2 bastards in her heart. And that person had just plotted against her. Now that these skeleton soldiers obeyed her, she naturally wanted to retaliate. Soon, under the protection of a group of skeleton soldiers, Kim Tae-hee arrived at the door of the warehouse. The 2 people who were secretly looking at the outside situation through the crack of the door changed their faces at the same time. When they saw those skeleton soldiers surrounding Kim Tae-hee in the middle, they had a bad premonition. Now it seems that the appearance of these skeleton soldiers is obviously related to this woman. However, what reassured the 2 was that the warehouse was filled with finished silver ornaments and had no windows. Even the door of the warehouse was made of metal, with a thickness of more than 150 millimeters, which was strong enough. It might not be easy for ordinary rocket guns to penetrate it, let alone the bone-long knives in the hands of these skeleton soldiers. Kim Tae-hee reached out and knocked on the metal door, and a trace of worry appeared on her face. From the sound, the thickness of the metal door was not low, and it was not easy to open it. But since we were here, we had to try it anyway. She turned her head and said to a skeleton knife soldier beside her, "Chop it open." The skeleton soldier heard this and walked forward with the bone knife in his hand and chopped the metal door fiercely with the bone knife. Bang! After a loud noise, only a groove 2 or 3 centimeters thick appeared on the metal door. The powerful recoil shook the skeleton soldier back 2 steps. The 2 people hiding in the warehouse saw this scene, breathed a sigh of relief, and their hearts were relieved. Although they knew that the door was strong enough, they were still worried about the legendary creature. Now it seems that they don't have to worry about it. Belle, who was full of hope when he saw the skeletons coming to help, changed his expression. "You 2 bastards, come out." He stepped forward and smashed the door with the fire axe in his hand. But it didn't work, except that his hands were numb. The two people inside saw this. They laughed triumphantly. Don't waste your energy. You can't open this door from outside, Kim. Teehee was so angry when she heard the laughter inside point, but she was not panicked. As long as Zuemo came out, it would be easy to get in point, you know. There is a lot of silver in it, and Zuemo will not give up point, but no one noticed that the skeleton soldier who was shocked back paused for a while and stepped forward again point this time. It didn't chop directly with the knife point, instead it raised the bone knife point. The soul fire in the head suddenly grew stronger, and then a trace of flame shot out from the empty eye sockets and stained the bone knife point. The entire bone knife instantly burned violently point. It was not until then that they noticed the abnormality of the skeleton soldier. The skeleton soldier did not hesitate at all and directly inserted the burning bone knife in his hand into the gate point, as if inserted into tofu. The bone knife easily pierced into the metal door. The two people in the warehouse saw the tip of the knife suddenly inserted into the door, and their hearts, which had just fallen, were lifted up again point. In the eyes of the two people point, the bone knife wandered on the door for a while, drawing an oval more than one person high point. Seeing this scene point, the two people's expressions changed drastically, and they turned around and fled into the warehouse point. But just after running 2 steps, bang, with a loud noise, a large piece of metal that was cut off suddenly flew in, knocking Jim, who turned to flee, to the ground point outside the hole in the door. The skeleton soldier slowly lowered his raised foot. Sizzle point. The burning hot metal gave him a teppanyaki on the back point. Jim screamed and fainted point outside the door. Kim, Teehee and Belle watched the skeleton soldier throw away the burnt bone knife and slowly retreat to the back. With a trace of shock on their faces, they did not expect that the skeleton soldier had this trick. But Kim Teehee reacted quickly. He waved to the skeleton soldier behind him. Catch the two people inside. A group of skeleton soldiers more than 2 meters tall lowered their heads and drilled in through the open hole point. A moment later, Kim, Teehee and Belle walked in point. John and Jim were already held in the hands of 2 skeleton soldiers like chickens. Jim, who fainted, also woke up directly after a lot of tossing. Looking at the skeleton soldiers surrounding them, and Belle and Kim Teehee who came in, the two showed horror on their faces. Madam, let us go. I apologize. Jim shouted at Kim Teehee. Apologize? If apologies are useful, what do we need the police for? She was too lazy to talk nonsense with the 2 men, and said to Belle beside her, leave it to you. She knew that compared to her, Belle wanted to kill these 2 people with his own hands. After hearing this, Belle thanked them and walked towards the 2 of them. Kim Teehee turned around and walked out the door. The next scene would be bloody. She had just entered the apocalypse, so she was still a little uncomfortable with this kind of scene point. After a while, a series of shrill screams came from the warehouse. It lasted for 10 minutes. Hearing the movement inside, Kim Teehee stopped and walked in. There were 2 large pools of blood on the floor of the warehouse. In the center of the blood, Jim and John, who had been chopped beyond recognition, lay. Get rid of these 2 piles of things, Kim Teehee ordered. The rest of the skeleton soldiers did not move. Only the skeleton soldier who burned the bone knife walked forward and inserted his left hand into the body of a corpse. A trace of soul fire flowed to his hand point. Then the flesh and blood of the corpse quickly melted under the burning of the soul fire point. In the end, even the bones were no exception, and they turned directly into liquid and were absorbed by the skeleton soldiers as the whole corpse disappeared. A bone knife reappeared in the right hand of the skeleton soldier. The same method was followed, and another corpse was also absorbed by it point. After absorbing 2 corpses, the size of the skeleton soldier increased again point. Even the bones became thicker than before. Can this thing evolve? Seeing this scene, Kim Teehee was surprised, but she didn't think much about it. She waved at these skeletons, collected all the silver products in this warehouse. Afraid that these skeleton soldiers didn't understand, she demonstrated it herself point. In an instant point, the whole warehouse became lively. Chapter 65 Cavalry becomes infantry. In the factory point, the combination of the undead cavalry has also reached the final moment point. With the final fusion of the soul fire, it sank into the head of the undead knight point. A materialized black gas spread on its body surface. Finally, it turned into a materialized black armor, which tightly wrapped the whole body including the undead horse. Zuemo's body also slowly landed from the sky. Looking at the more than 30 undead knights and nearly 500 skeleton soldiers, He nodded with satisfaction. Point to draw the auxiliary magic circle. You must devote yourself to it. Point with the protection of the undead army. He doesn't have to worry about being disturbed by the zombies when drawing the magic circle. Point at this time, a sense of coldness came from his body. Point casting magic does not require the body, but in this case, when the undead energy is too dense, his body cannot avoid being invaded by some scattered undead energy. Point this is also the characteristic of undead magic. Point otherwise, those undead wizards would not be like evil spirits one by one. Point, but thanks to his strong mental power the undead energy that escaped was not much, and after a little movement, he quickly recovered. Point he flew forward, kicked an undead knight off the horse, and then sat on it himself. These undead knights were created by him, and were completely under his control. After all, the undead energy in their bodies was provided by Zuemo, and Zuemo only needed a thought to restore them to a pile of dry bones. Because of this, the moment he raised his foot, he could make the opponent unable to move, and separate from the undead warhorse. Otherwise, with his strength, even if he kicked his leg off, the opponent would not move at all. The undead knight lying on the ground instantly regained control of his body and stood up from the ground in a daze. Point he turned around and saw that it was Zuemo who kicked him off. Point no nonsense. He obediently carried the big sword back to the back. Point cavalry became infantry. Point, but this undead knight obviously couldn't understand the truth. Infantry is always more popular than cavalry. Riding a tall warhorse that was only about 2 meters long, Zuemo took the lead and walked towards the position of Jintaxi and the others. Before they reached the warehouse, Jintaxi and the others came out. The main reason was that the cavalry made a lot of noise. When they ran together, the ground nearby could feel the vibration. Jintaxi, who came out, looked at the row of cavalry that looked like a city wall, and a pressure came towards her. However, she was relieved when she saw Zuemo sitting on the undead horse in the center. Zuemo seemed to realize that it was a bit too much trouble to bring so many undead creatures. At that moment, the dark book between his eyebrows flashed, and these undead creatures disappeared instantly. They were received and a space opened up in the dark book for storing undead. He also found that the dark book, which could be called a divine weapon, had automatically opened up a space after performing the undead summoning. Point watching these undead disappear directly. Point Jintaxi and Jack felt relieved. Point when they faced these undead just now, especially those undead knights, they always felt an inexplicable pressure, as if a big stone was pressing on their chests. Zuemo's telekinesis swept across the warehouse. Point he saw various silver ornaments piled up in the middle of the warehouse. Well done, Zuemo praised and walked directly into the warehouse. Point he waved his hand and collected all the silver ornaments piled up on the ground. Point, although it looked like a lot, it was estimated that it was only more than 100 tons in weight. Point when Kim Tae-hee and the others came in, they looked at the silver ornaments that had disappeared, and a strange color flashed in their eyes. However, after seeing Zuemo's various incredible methods, the two did not say much. Under Jack's leadership, Zuemo quickly came to the warehouse, where the raw materials were located at the back of the factory. Point after easily opening the door lock, the three walked in. Point looking around. There were piles of special boxes neatly stacked in the warehouse. The boxes were made of metal. In addition to the frame, each surface had a mesh structure with coin-sized holes. Through the small holes, you can see that the boxes are filled with silver bricks that are nearly 40 centimeters long. Point the weight of each silver brick is marked on it, 15 kilograms. After a rough estimate, the silver bricks in the room exceed thousands of tons, enough for Zuemo to set up the array. After collecting the silver bricks in the room, Zuemo turned his head and looked at Jack beside him. My goal has been achieved. Since you are still cooperative, I will send you off. A space door opened under Jack's feet. Before he could react, he screamed and fell in. Los Angeles. Point the second most popular city in the United States. Point after the Doomsday, it is naturally one of the cities with the most zombies since the same range. Zuemo naturally chose the city with the most zombies. Normally, New York, which has the largest population, is the most suitable place to set up the array. However, considering the geographical factors, Zuemo abandoned it. Although New York has the largest population, the shape of the city is too irregular. The array is a circular area, which is not easy to cover it. Point of course, this is only a secondary reason. Point the most important thing is that there are too many waters in New York, which can easily cause a waste of space. Point ZUMO planned to use the space gate to transport more zombies into the formation. In this way, Los Angeles, which is a regular circle and almost entirely land, is the most suitable candidate. Point Kenmore Park in southwest Los Angeles. Point ZUMO and Jin He walked out of the space gate. Where did you throw him, Jin? He walked out of the portal and asked in confusion. An uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. The island has abundant resources and is very suitable as a place for survival in the wilderness. Jin He was speechless after hearing this. However, at this time, the safest place is indeed those uninhabited islands. Of course, ZUMO did not intend to let the other party start from scratch and threw him a bone knife. Point with this weapon, he should live a comfortable life on the island. Point the only drawback is that he is a little lonely. At worst, I will send him a partner later. While the two were talking, point dozens of wandering zombies around smelled the breath of living people. And they roared and rushed over here. Point ZUMO's eyebrows flashed and a grey vortex appeared in front of him. Point a rumbling sound rang out. A team of undead knights rushed out from inside, spread out in all directions, and directly crushed all the zombies around. The zombies had no intention of resisting these undead creatures. Even the chicken racks had a little meat, but these skeletons were nothing but bones. The zombies had no interest at all. Following closely, nearly 500 skeleton warriors of various types also rushed out. ZUMO waved his hand around. Clear the area. Chapter 66 Magical Welding Girl. Get ZUMO's order. These skeleton warriors and undead knights swept in all directions. This is the first place ZUMO chose on the map to set up the auxiliary magic circle. According to the scale covering the entire Los Angeles, the diameter of each auxiliary magic circle is no less than 300 meters. If you want to use mithril to draw the magic circle within this range, there must be no obstacles on the ground. Under ZUMO's command, these undead creatures began to demolish frantically. Point in the entire park, all obstacles, including trees, were cleared away by them. Point ZUMO looked at the undead creatures sweeping around frantically, raised his right hand, and stretched it into a space door opened next to him. After coming out, he was holding a 4 or 5 centimeter thick book in his hand. The mark of the dark book on the forehead flashed. A black energy shot into the book in his hand and wrapped the book directly. Under the energy wrapping, the appearance of the book began to change slowly. The original content on it had been completely erased, replaced by a series of magic spells and release methods. After a moment, the surrounding energy penetrated into the book. Point at this time, the appearance of the book was 80% similar to the Dark God book. Point he threw the book to Kim Tae-hee on the side. It records part of the black magic. You try to practice it. Oh, by the way, if you don't understand, think about it yourself. Don't bother me. After that, regardless of the other party's reaction, ZUMO walked to an open space and sat down, intending to use the secret method to make these silver bricks into mithril. Point. After listening to it, Kim Tae-hee's eyes lit up. Point he hurriedly took the book that ZUMO threw over. He couldn't wait to open the book. Looking at the name of the magic on the first page, space teleportation, a look of surprise instantly appeared on her face. After learning this, can't I go back to South Korea to save my sister directly? Kim Tae-hee muttered excitedly. Point thinking of this, she quickly calmed down her excitement and studied it seriously. Point on the other side. Point ZUMO waved his hand lightly and a pile of silver ornaments appeared on the ground in front of him. Point a purple flame shot out from his hand and floated in the air. Then, the silver ornaments on the ground, under the control of telekinesis, slowly flew into the purple flame. Point a whole day was spent in ZUMO's repeated refining of mithril. Point it was a little after 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Point the sky gradually darkened. Point ZUMO put the last portion of liquid mithril into the space ring. Point he let out a long breath. Point the long repetitive action made him look a little tired. Point he turned his head and looked at Jin Tae-hee not far away. The other party seemed to be immersed in crazy magic practice. From ZUMO's perspective, Jin Tae-hee, who had her back to him, seemed to have turned into a welding girl, and bursts of light kept flashing in front of her from time to time. There were a few purple bright spots like Mars flying out. Point he kept muttering something in his mouth. Point ZUMO did not disturb the other party, but turned his head and looked around. Point within a few hundred meters around, the undead creatures had been cleaned up. Fortunately, this place is located in the suburbs, and there are not many zombies around. The few that are left have been attracted by the movement here and cleaned up. The debris cleared out of the park was piled up by these undead outside the circle, forming a natural barrier. At this time, the undead were scattered inside the barrier, alerting zombies that might rush in. Undead creatures have this advantage, and they don't need to rest at all. Success. An excited roar came from behind. Zuemo turned his head and looked. Jinty was so excited that she almost jumped up. In front of her, a space door was slowly opening. Seeing this, Zuemo hurried over and pulled Jinty away from the space door at the same time. The dozen or so undead knights guarding the periphery rushed over here under his command point. He was very experienced and knew very well that if the space door was opened without skill, there might be some deviations. God knows where her space door leads to. Point what if it is opened directly in a group of zombies? Kim Tae-hee, who was so close, might become the first sacrifice of his magic. Fortunately, the situation he expected did not happen. As the space door opened to more than one person's height, the two also saw the scene on the other side clearly. It seemed to be in a classroom. Judging from the words on the wall of the classroom, this was obviously a school in South Korea. After a while, Kim Tae-hee pointed to a certain position on the wall and shouted excitedly, "Seoul University Suwon campus, this is my sister's school." After saying that, she was about to rush into the space door. However, Zuemo pulled her back by the collar. "What? Sister, what's the matter?" She woke up when she felt a part of her body that was strangled and painful. Although she learned a magic, she was not much different from ordinary people in terms of combat power. If she wanted to save her sister, she still had to rely on Zuemo. Thinking of this, she quickly told her sister's story. After saying that, she asked carefully, "Can I borrow a few of those skeleton soldiers, just for one night?" She knew the horror of zombies, and knew that the longer she delayed, the smaller the chance of her sister surviving. Zuemo nodded. "Okay, but there are conditions." "I agree to any conditions." Kim Tae-hee showed a firm look on her face. "Okay, we'll talk about the conditions after you rescue your sister." After that, Zuemo waved his hand, and the 50 skeleton soldiers on the periphery ran over here, standing behind the two of them. Then 3 of the undead knights who were blocking the two came out, and one of the knights got off the horse. Finally, Kim Tae-hee sat on an undead warhorse, followed by 2 undead knights and 50 skeleton soldiers, and entered the space gate. From the fact that he was able to successfully cast the space gate spell in less than a day. The other party's talent for practicing magic is not bad. Besides, he can take this opportunity to train the other party. After all, after he left, he still had to rely on her to lead these undead legions to clean up the zombies. If this matter cannot be handled, how can we control those undead spirits at that time? Looking at the slowly closing space door, Zuemo left these undead knights here to guard, and he returned to the yacht. Coming out of the space door, Alyssa was lying on the bedboard. Seeing Zuemo coming out of the space door, she immediately got up from the bed excitedly. Walking forward, she looked at the slowly closing space door behind Zuemo with strange eyes. "Is this also?" Zuemo nodded woodenly. After a busy day with his physical fitness, he was almost unable to bear it. Seeing this, Alyssa came up with a smile on her face. "Hiss, what are you doing?" Chapter 67 Self-entertainment is prohibited. Early the next morning, Zuemo came out of the room with his hands on his waist. He finally knew that he was unwilling to let Alyssa break up with her boyfriend in this world. In addition to satisfying his special little hobby, there was such a reason. This woman is really poisonous as a friend. It is okay to communicate occasionally, but if she is a girlfriend with the original owner's physical fitness, I'm afraid she will not last more than a year. Came to the deck of the yacht. Harry was staring at the surrounding sea water in a trance. Hearing the footsteps behind him, Harry turned around and saw Zuemo coming up. After hesitating for a while, he asked, "Who are you?" As the best friend of the original owner, it is obvious that from this short contact of less than a day, he easily judged that the person in front of him was no longer his friend. Zuemo's expression did not change. When he heard this, he was not surprised that he would be discovered by the other party. Of course, this is also the reason why he did not deliberately conceal it. It Doesn't matter who I am, but you should know that I don't mean to harm you. Seeing Zuemo did not deny it, Harry showed a trace of loneliness on his face. He was willing to risk his life to rescue Zuemo, which was enough to show that Harry really regarded the original owner as his best friend. Can you help me? Harry hesitated and said, you say, can you send me to a deserted island with no one? Harry guessed that Zuemo should have this ability because he could always disappear and reappear quietly. The amount of oil in this yacht can only run a few hundred nautical miles at most. As far as he knew, there was no suitable island nearby. Of course, Zuemo nodded. At this time, living on an uninhabited island is indeed the safest choice. After speaking, Zuemo snapped his fingers, and the space door slowly opened beside them. On the other side, Belle, who was chopping trees with a white bone knife, turned his head when he heard the movement. Seeing Zuemo on the other side, a smile appeared on his face. Hi, Belle greeted. It can be seen that the other party seems to be very satisfied with life on the island. Half an hour later, the space door slowly closed. I just learned from Harry that his parents had died a year ago, and he had no relatives in this world, so he chose to live on the island. Zuemo had left all the useful supplies on the ship for them. The food alone was enough for the two of them to consume for several months. Maybe the zombies would have been cleared before they were all consumed. After sending Harry away, he was a little troubled. What to do with Alyssa on the ship? Just abandon it? It was obviously not appropriate, and Zuemo could not do such a ruthless thing. After hesitating for a moment, Zuemo made a decision. He might as well sign a devil contract. Staying here can also be of some use. Thinking of this, Zuemo returned to the bedroom again. The sound of the door opening woke the other party up, and Alyssa looked at Zuemo standing at the door. She posed her charming figure on the bed. Honey, do you want to do some morning exercises? Zuemo stroked his forehead gently. Seeing the other party like this, he didn't look like a magic material at all, but more like a succubus. Sit down, I have something serious to tell you. Next, Zuemo repeated the devil's contract to the other party. Sign the contract in front. The choice is yours. After listening, Alyssa showed an excited look on her face. Yes, of course, honey, hurry up, I can't wait. As the devil's contract sank into Zuemo's eyebrows, the contract officially took effect. Waited for more than 10 seconds. Alyssa looked at herself in confusion. Is that it over? What else do you want? At least a burst of clothes or something. Zuemo speechlessly threw a book about black magic to the other party. You study it slowly. I am leaving first. After that, Zuemo opened the space door and left directly. Looking at Zuemo's figure leaving, Alyssa didn't care and opened the book in her hand and started reading. After seeing the skill of space teleportation, she licked her lips. Wow, this is a magical skill for self-entertainment. Kenmally Park, the undead who had stood all night, did not show any signs of fatigue and still strictly followed Zuemo's orders. The dark book appeared in front of him. He quickly turned to the page of the auxiliary magic circle needed for the undead disaster. Looking at the complex lines on it, Zuemo first outlined the outline magnified tens of thousands of times on the ground, and then controlled the liquid mithril he had refined before to draw along these outlines. In order to successfully draw the magic circle, no mistakes were allowed in his hands. For a whole morning, Zuemo was concentrating on depicting the formation. Until near noon, the last line was connected with the previous one. The entire auxiliary magic circle was finally completed. At the moment the magic circle was completed, a purple light began to flow along the lines of the magic circle until the entire magic circle was lit up, and the light disappeared again. Zuemo smiled. This means that the magic array has been completely completed. At this speed, it will take at least 3 or 4 days to complete all the magic arrays. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Zuemo planned to take a rest and check the situation. Of Kimchi. Close your eyes. He immediately felt 2 light spots in his consciousness. This is another function of the devil's contract, which can observe the scene around the other party of the contract at any time. Obviously, these 2 light spots are Kimchi and Alyssa, who signed the contract with him. He tried to connect a light spot farther away, and a picture appeared in his mind. Nambang. More than 100 kilometers west of Suwon City Point County, he rode on a skeleton horse more than 2 meters high, followed by the 50 skeleton soldiers at this time. The size of these skeleton soldiers has almost increased by 1/3, and the bones on their bodies have become like white jade, shining with crystal light. Point carefully control the skeleton horse under him, trying not to let it make any sound. Point. After coming here last night, she directly controlled these skeleton soldiers to clear out all the zombies in the university. Point. Fortunately, the university was not in the urban area of Suwon City, so there was no large number of zombies attracted by the sound. Point. After cleaning up, she searched the zombie bodies. Fortunately, she did not find her sister Jenny inside. Point. After that, she searched around the university. From the bloodstains left by a car at the entrance of the campus, it was speculated that someone drove a car from the campus to the west after the zombie virus broke out, driving in this direction for 2 or 3 hours. You can reach the beach. Point. She also speculated that these people should be planning to go to the sea. There was no trace of Jenny around, so she could only pray that Jenny left here with her in the car. Then she had no time to rest and chased here directly. Fortunately, there is only one road that bypasses the city to the beach, so there is no need to worry about taking a detour. However, until now, it is less than 30 kilometers away from the beach, but there is still no trace of the car. She couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Point. At this time in the suburbs of Cheonan City, less than 10 kilometers from the seaside. Point. A bus broke down on the roadside. Point. At this time, a short but extremely strong man stood in front of the rear tire of the car and kicked the deflated tire. Zibber. Damn car. It broke down at this time. At this time, several college students in school uniforms got off the car. Teacher. Jiz, how is it? Chapter 68. Jiz is plotted against. The car is broken. We need to walk the rest of the way. This place is in the wild, and it is obviously impossible to find a new car. Jiz frowned and checked on his mobile phone. It is less than 10 kilometers from here to the seaside. We can only be safe if we board the boat on the seashore. These students have a deep understanding of this. The hearing and smell of those zombies are extremely sensitive. Point. The slightest movement may attract them. Point. No one could sleep well when resting in the car last night. Everyone was always in a state of anxiety, fearing that zombies would follow the smell. Fortunately, the night was spent peacefully. If they live in such a tense mood all day, they will probably collapse first without being eaten by zombies. At this time. Point. A male student in the crowd looked at the worried look on the face of another girl next to him. Jenny, don't worry, I will protect you. After hearing this, Jenny looked at the other person's body as thin as a grasshopper and rolled her eyes speechlessly. You'd better protect yourself first. Also, please call me Jenny from now on. After saying that, Jenny ignored the other party's ugly face and went back to the car to put on her backpack. The people around also returned to the car and packed up. Zao Dangsu looked at Jenny in the car with a gloomy face, and a trace of barely perceptible cruelty flashed in his eyes. He has been pursuing her for 2.5 years, but until now, the other party has never looked at her straight in the eye. Stinky bitch, you force me to do this. A certain thought flashed through his mind. At this time, Jiz got off the car with a backpack on his back. Hey, stinky boy, what are you doing? Hurry up and carry the things you need. No one will share the hard-earned food with you when the time comes. On the way to here, the car once passed a gas station. After clearing out the only dozen zombies by car, they collected a lot of food and water in the supermarket at the gas station. Point. The car was almost full. Point. But it was obviously impossible to take all of them away at the moment. It all depended on their physical strength. They could only carry as much as they could. Point. Zao Dangsu nodded with a smile after hearing this. Okay, Teacher Jiz. He turned around and walked towards the car door. But after he left Jiz's sight, a cold look flashed in his eyes. If he wanted to implement his plan, he had to get rid of this troublesome guy first. There were only 2 men in this team, him and Jiz. As long as the other party was not there, he could do whatever he wanted. But if he wanted to get rid of the other party, he had to think of a way He had seen the other party knock out 3 zombies with his bare hands before. A few minutes later 7 or 8 students followed Jiz and walked towards the beach on foot. 10 kilometers is not far, but if they walked, it would take at least 2 hours. What's more, each of these people was carrying a large bag of food. It only took more than half an hour. The students were all panting with exhaustion. Zao Dangsu was almost out of breath because of his long-term lack of exercise. At this time, several people saw the shadow of a small town in the distance. There's a car over there. A girl's voice sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone followed her gaze. Sure enough, a pickup truck was parked on the road outside the town, and the nearby zombies were not seen because they were attracted away or something. The door was open, but the distance was too far to see the scene inside the car clearly. Teacher Jiz, why don't we go over and take a look? If the car can start, it can save us a lot of time. The girl continued to speak. Jiz hesitated for a moment. No, that location is too close to the town. If a zombie suddenly rushes out from it, none of us can escape. Hearing this, these people nodded. Indeed, it is less than 2 hours away from the beach, so there is no need to take this risk. After figuring it out, they continued to grit their teeth and rush towards the beach. Only Zao Dangsu, who was deliberately walking behind, moved his eyes and gradually slowed down his pace. While everyone was not paying attention, he left the team and quietly walked towards the car outside the town. A few minutes later, he came to the side of the car. Looking into the car, a smile appeared on his face. There were no zombies in the car, and the car key was inserted in the keyhole. Zao Dangsu did not hesitate, put the backpack on the car, and then tried to start the car. After all, only 1 day had passed since the end of the world, and the car started smoothly after only 1 time. He turned the car around and did not drive away directly, but took a deep breath and pressed the horn on the steering wheel. Fiercely beep. The harsh sound echoed in the quiet town. Almost instantly, the town was boiling directly. The zombies roared one after another. In less than 10 seconds, zombies appeared at the end of the road behind the car and ran towards the car, and as they ran, the size of the zombie group was gradually expanding. Seeing that the distance was almost the same, Zao Dangsu drove the car directly towards the crowd. The moment the car horn sounded, the people who were struggling to move also stopped and looked in the direction of the horn. In this quiet environment, the sound was unusually obvious. Until this time, a girl screamed, "Teacher Jiz, Zao Dangsu is missing." Jiz's face changed after hearing it. Not good. He instantly realized that Zao Dangsu should have gone to drive the car, and the direction of the horn just now also confirmed this. "You guys go quickly, I'll go over and take a look." After Jiz gave an order, he planned to check from a distance. If there was a chance, he naturally didn't want to give up everyone. But before he left, he saw the pickup truck appear at the end of the road. Not far behind the car, there was a group of zombies chasing. The pickup truck quickly caught up with everyone and stopped directly next to Jenny. "Hurry up and get in the car, Zao." Dangsu pretended to be anxious after seeing this. Jiz glared at him fiercely. "I'll settle with you later." After saying that, he walked straight to the girls and helped them climb into the back of the car. After everyone got in, Jiz planned to get in. At this time, the zombies were still 60 or 70 meters away from them. There was enough time. However, Zao Dangsu, who had been staring at the rearview mirror, did not give him this opportunity. He stepped on the accelerator fiercely, and the car roared angrily, then flew out, knocking Jiz, who wanted to get in the car, to the ground. "Asshole!" Jiz roared angrily as he fell to the ground. It was obvious that the other party wanted him to die on purpose. Getting up from the ground, he chased the car frantically. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69. The Sinister Zao Dangsu. Jenny, who was sitting in the passenger seat of the car, saw this and looked at Zao Dangsu angrily. "What are you doing? Teacher Jiz hasn't gotten on the bus yet." "Really? I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention." Zao Dangsu had a wild smile on his face. Seeing his expression, Jenny understood immediately. "Did you do it on purpose?" "There was an expression of disbelief on her face. You know, they, including Zao Dangsu in front of them, were able to escape from the school thanks to teacher Jiz, but they didn't expect that Zao Dangsu in front of them was so bad. He will even harm the person who saved his life. Behind the car. It was obviously impossible for Jiz to catch up with the speeding car. Soon the car disappeared from his sight. Saber. Jiz cursed, then threw away his backpack and started running at full speed. He turned around and glanced at the distance between him and the zombies behind him, but he was not happy at all. Although the distance has increased, it is impossible for him to maintain this speed for too long. While the zombies behind him can keep running to death like this, he turned around and looked around. On both sides of the empty road, only a willow tree more than 10 meters high was located less than 100 meters away from him. Without any hesitation, he ran directly towards the willow tree. After arriving under the tree with a few quick moves, he climbed along the main trunk to the top of the tree. Soon the zombies also chased after them, swarming towards the tree. Jiz forcefully broke off a dry branch from the tree and kept stabbing down the zombies that were near him. But depending on the situation, it won't take a few minutes for these zombies to reach his height. Just by relying on this stack. Jiz had no choice. His strength was almost exhausted. If he kept running, he would probably be caught up by these zombies in less than a minute. By then, there would be no chance of survival for him. Looking at the zombie group that was gradually rising in height, Jiz showed a trace of despair on his face. This time. In the distance, a group of white figures approached here. Finally, it stopped 100 meters away from the trees. The leader is Kim Tae-hee, who is riding a skeleton horse. Kim Tae-hee looked at the scene in the distance. A man squatted on the top of the tree like a gorilla, and from time to time he used the wooden stick in his hand to push down the zombies approaching him. Although the scene is somewhat funny, depending on the situation, the other party will soon be unable to support it. She waved gently. The skeleton soldiers behind him rushed towards the zombie group, just like chopping melons and vegetables. Within a few minutes, all the hundreds of zombies surrounding the tree were chopped down. Jiz, who was squatting on the tree, changed his expression when he saw the skeleton for the first time. What the hell is this? Not only can dead people run away, but now even a skeleton can stab someone with a knife. However, when I noticed Kim Tae-hee sitting on a horse in the distance, it was obvious that these skeletons were controlled by someone. He also breathed a sigh of relief. Humans are better than these monsters who can't communicate. After a while, Kim Tae-hee rode the skeleton horse to the foot of the big tree and looked up at Jiz, who was squatting on the top of the tree. "Did you run away from college?" she asked, straight to the point, with a look of expectation on her face. On the way here, she saw the broken down bus. This place is not too far from the bus, so she made this guess. Hearing this, Jiz's eyes lit up, and he quickly slid down from the tree using his hands and feet. "Yes, I'm a teacher at Seoul National University. Who are you?" "Among the people you escaped with, was there a girl named Jenny?" Kim Tae-hee asked hurriedly, and then added something after that. "I'm Jenna's sister." Jiz finally understood and nodded. He recounted what had happened before, and then pointed in a direction. "That bastard took them away from this direction." Kim Tae-hee breathed a sigh of relief when he heard the news that Jenny was safe, but he learned from the other party's words that the boy from Seodangsu obviously didn't have any good intentions. There was no hesitation at the moment. He waved directly to another undead knight on the side. The undead knight stepped forward on his horse, lifted Jiz from the ground with one hand, and placed him behind him. Then, under the leadership of Kim Tae-hee, they chased in the direction of the car at extremely high speed. Seaside. The pickup truck suddenly stopped and stopped outside the dock. There were bloodstains everywhere on the ground of the dock. But there were no zombies. Judging from the situation, they were all attracted to leave for some reason. Everyone got out of the car. Several girls sitting in the car behind criticized Seodangsu, who got out of the cab. "How could you leave teacher GZHE behind?" "That's right, there's obviously still enough time. I think he did it on purpose." Listening to the crowd's voices, Seodangsu showed a crazy expression on his face. "Shut up." After saying that, he stepped forward and kicked the two girls who were the loudest to the ground. "If you dare to talk anymore, believe it or not, I will throw you out of here." Seeing his ferocious expression, the other girls were too frightened to speak. Seeing that everyone was shocked by him, Xiao showed a satisfied smile on his face, and then he turned around to confront Jenny. However, as soon as he turned his head, he saw a bloody baseball bat coming towards him. It hit his head with a bang. Xiao fell to the ground with his hands covering his head after being hit hard on the head. However, he was also slow to react and reached out to grab the baseball bat that attacked again and snatched it away with one hand. Jenny, who was holding the wooden stick, was pulled and staggered. Xiao stood up holding the stick and looked at Jenny with a gloomy face. "Smelly bitch, you are shameless." Seeing this, Jenny turned around and ran. She seemed to have overestimated her strength, and her full strength attack did not knock the other party unconscious. And the baseball bat picked up from the ground was taken away by the other party. The difference in physical innateness makes it easy for even such a weak man to control an ordinary woman. Xiao saw that the other party was about to run away and suddenly hit her leg with a stick. Jenny screamed in pain and fell to the ground. The other 5 or 6 girls were frightened and fled in all directions when they saw this scene. In their opinion, Xiao had gone crazy. Seeing the few people running away behind him, Xiao was unmoved. His original target was Jenny. Compared with her, those women with faces like pancakes could not arouse his interest at all. Looking at Jenny's face, that was tender and charming, he licked his lips, but he did not get carried away. Although there are no zombies in this place at present, it is not certain when a group of zombies will run out from somewhere. Looking at a fishing boat not far away, he ignored Jenny's resistance and pulled the other party towards the fishing boat. Chapter 70 Embarrassed Kimtihi. Xiao had just taken 2 steps. He heard a slight sound of running in the distance. He turned his head and looked. He immediately saw a group of skeletons with only skeletons left running towards them at a high speed in the direction they came from. Running in the front were 3 skeleton war horses. Seeing this, Xiao and Jenny's faces changed at the same time. Xiao hurriedly quickened his pace. Fortunately, he was not too far away from the boat at this time. In a few breaths, he had already run to the boat. At this time, he was relieved. His family was considered to have some assets, and he had learned boat driving skills during the holidays. Although it was different from the fishing boat in front of him, the control methods were similar. He was confident that he could start the boat. In the distance, Jis, who was sitting on the skeleton horse, saw that the other party had already walked towards the cabin, and his face changed. Oh no, the distance between the 2 parties was still 300 or 400 meters. If the other party was allowed to start the boat, I'm afraid he would really let the other party escape. After all, no matter from which aspect, these skeletons do not have the ability to fight in water. After entering the water, these skeletons will probably sink to the bottom in an instant. He was almost killed by this kid, and his resentment towards Xiao is not ordinary. Now he wants to tear the kid to pieces directly. Seeing that the other party is about to escape, he is naturally a cheap. Jintihi, who was sitting on the skeleton horse in front, naturally saw this scene, but her face looked very happy. Although the distance was still a little far, but she could still vaguely recognize that the girl was her sister Jenny. As long as the other party is alive, it is the best good news. As for her being kidnapped by the other party, she was not worried at all. With the ability of space transmission, she can easily go to the boat to rescue Jenny. But there is no need to be so troublesome at the moment. She waved her arm towards the skeleton behind her, and a thought was transmitted. This is also the way to accurately control the undead army recorded in the Dark God book. As long as the command is not too complicated, these undead can execute it accurately. Of course, this is for low level undead. The IQ of some higher level undead is not inferior to that of humans, and even higher than that of ordinary humans, so there is no need to be so troublesome. A running skeleton archer suddenly accelerated. The 2 skeleton soldiers in front of it overlapped their hands. The archer jumped up and stepped on their overlapping hands. With the help of the power of the 2 skeleton soldiers, it flew directly to a height of dozens of meters. After reaching the highest point, the skeleton archer raised his bow and shot a bone arrow into the distance. The bone arrow turned into a stream of light and flashed away. In almost an instant, it crossed a distance of several hundred meters, penetrated Xiao stomach, and fixed the opponent on the deck. Ah! Zayodangsu screamed. Seeing this, Jinzeni, who was standing by, took the opportunity to get rid of the other party's palm and hid in the cabin beside. She looked at the terrible monster approaching from a distance, and sweat broke out on her forehead. She was not as good at driving a boat as Zayodangsu, and her only way out was to jump into the water to escape. Taking a deep breath, she hurriedly ran out of the cabin and ran to the side. But before she jumped, she heard a familiar shout from a distance. Turning her head, she suddenly found that among the monsters rushing over, the one riding on the skeleton horse in the front, was her sister Jintihi. Annie? Soon Jintihi had come close, and after getting off the skeleton horse, she ran forward and hugged Jinzeni together. After a while, the two separated. Jinzeni looked at her sister in disbelief. Annie, aren't you in America? Why are you here? And what about these monsters behind? Hearing this, Jintihi explained to the other party. On the other side, Jiz came to Zayodangsu, who was crying on the ground. He clenched his fist. Smelly boy, fall into my hands. I will let you know what will happen if you want to assassinate the teacher. After that, the fist as big as a casserole kept falling on the other's head. When the two sisters Kimtihi came over, the other had already died. Seeing the miserable look on the other's face, Kim Jenny had no mercy and stepped forward to kick him a few more times. Asshole, you want to take advantage of me, Jenny. Seeing her sister's serious expression, Kim Jenny stuck out her tongue. Annie, I was wrong. I promise to be careful with my words in the future. Since her parents passed away, her sister has been taking care of her. She loves and fears this sister. Then, Kim Tae-hee also thanked Jiz Point and asked the skeleton soldiers to go to the nearby supermarkets to help him collect a lot of supplies and stack them in the warehouse on the ship. After all, without him, his sister might have died on campus watching the slowly sailing ship. Jinzeni asked, where are we going next? Jin Tae-hee gave her an unfathomable look. Just follow me. After saying that, she stretched out her right hand and slid it gently. The portal slowly opened in front of the two of them. Having just obtained this ability, she couldn't wait to show it to Zenny. Sure enough, Zenny's eyes widened when she saw this scene. Kim Tae-hee saw the other person's expression, and a trace of satisfaction appeared on her face. If you don't return home when you are rich, it's like walking in the night in brocade clothes. With this ability, how can you not pretend in front of familiar people? However, as the space door slowly opened, she was stunned when she saw the scenery on the other side. The space door opened over the boundless ocean. Jenny naturally saw the scenery over there. She looked at her in confusion. Annie, will we be fed to fish if we go there? Kim Tae-hee waved her hand to close the space door and spoke with forced calmness. I didn't sleep all night to find you. Maybe I was too tired, so it's inevitable that some mistakes will occur. Come again. After saying that, she concentrated and calmed down, took a deep breath, and slid her right hand again. Another space door opened in front of the two of them. Looking at the scene of ice and snow on the other side, and the penguins staring at them blankly. Jenny finally couldn't help it, and looked at the other party with questioning eyes. Annie, can you do it? After two consecutive mistakes, Kim Tae-hee finally couldn't hold it anymore, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on her face. But at this moment, on the Antarctic glacier inside the space gate, less than 2 meters away from where she opened the space gate, another space gate opened, leading to the square where Zuemo was. Another one appeared. What's going on, Jin? Jenny shouted in surprise. Seeing this scene, Kim Tae-hee was just a little stunned, and then reacted. This was undoubtedly Zuemo helping him relieve the embarrassment. At the moment, he regained his calm expression and reached out to wipe off the sweat on her head that had just appeared because of nervousness. Of course, I saw that you were too hot, so I helped you cool down during the transfer. After saying that, he took the lead in walking towards the portal. Just after stepping into the space gate, she shuddered in just a single layer of clothes. Chapter 71. Is this how space teleportation is used? Zuemo looked at Jintae, who came out of the space gate. A smile appeared on his face. After Jintae noticed it, an embarrassed look flashed across her face. After Jenny came through, she looked around curiously. Looking at Zuemo, who stood up from the ground. A hint of curiosity appeared in his eyes. Is this the man who gave her special abilities that my sister said? Zuemo noticed the other person's eyes and turned his head to look over. Jenny, who was always fearless, saw the other person looking over and quickly lowered her head. You know, this is the legendary demon. Jintae had already told her in detail about the contract. Of course, Zuemo could have stopped her from revealing all this, but he didn't do it. Zuemo's idea was very simple. Jenny must also sign a contract with her. This was also the condition for the other party to borrow the undead that he had thought of long ago. It's not that she likes the other party, but he understands that Jenny's position in Jintae's heart is even higher than her own. This is an unstable factor for Zuemo. After all, Jintae can die for the other party, so when the binding force of the contract conflicts with the safety of her sister, she will undoubtedly choose Jenny. There is no need to kill the other party directly. Then Jenny's soul can only be under her control. In this way, Jintae will unconditionally execute her orders. After he goes back, the undead army here will be controlled by the other party, and he can't always keep an eye on this side. This is related to hundreds of millions of points, and there can be no accidents. Zuemo passed his conditions to Jintae through the power of the contract. After hearing this, Jintae's expression changed. She can do whatever she wants, but she doesn't want Jenny to sign such a contract with the other party. But after thinking for a moment, she nodded directly. Not to mention, even if she refuses, it will be useless. Instead, it will anger Zuemo, and both of them will not end well. Even if the other party lets them go, she can't get over the hurdle in her heart. After all, if it weren't for Zuemo, neither of the two sisters would have survived. Jenny might even become someone else's plaything, living a life worse than death. In comparison, giving up her soul first and being controlled by the other party seems a bit insignificant. After thinking for a while, she turned around and pulled Jenny aside, intending to persuade the other party. It's really possible. Unexpectedly, after she proposed it, Jenny's face showed an eager excitement, as if in the eyes of the other party, this was a great thing. No, you listen carefully, you need to give up your soul, and in the future, the other party can make you live a life worse than death with just a thought. So what? Jenny's face showed a matter-of-fact look. If you want to get, you have to pay. Otherwise, why would they lend you their power, just because of your face? Don't joke, they have this ability, and will care about a woman like you. As long as they want, all the women in the world are his. Even if they force you, what can you do? Hearing this, Jintae suddenly understood. His thoughts were still stuck in the time before the end of the world, but he didn't expect Jenny to be much more thorough than he thought. Okay, I'm a little superficial. After a while, the same contract was signed. 4. Magic. Give him a copy of your book. Also, you two should practice the magic of space transmission first. You should try to master this magic within a few days. As for her, it depends on her talent. After that, Zuemo ignored the two and came to the pile of zombie corpses outside. Summon the undead. He was going to the next location to set up the magic circle. During this period, it was impossible not to leave some undead guards on the completed magic circle to prevent it from being destroyed by zombies or surviving humans. More than 10 minutes later, thousands of skeleton soldiers and more than 30 undead knights were neatly arranged in front of him. He opened the space door and walked in with these undead soldiers. For the next 3 or 4 days, Zuemo wandered in all directions of the city. Until this day. With a flash of light, the last auxiliary magic circle was finally completed. After leaving a group of undead to guard. Zuemo came to the Wilshire Center in the center of Los Angeles. It is also the tallest building in the city. In the hotel room on the top floor, He and her sister are staying here temporarily. At this time, the two were sitting cross-legged on the balcony of the living room. They practiced space teleportation facing the air outside the window. In this way, even if the other side of the space door is full of zombies, there is no need to worry about threatening their own safety. Kim Jenny and Kim Taehee's talents are almost the same. Almost on the first day, they successfully performed space teleportation. When he learned all this, Zuemo was also a little surprised. For this reason, he took the time to go back to the ship and found that Alyssa also learned this magic. It is possible that one person has such a high talent, but if 3 people are like this, Zuemo has confirmed that this seems to have nothing to do with talent. He guessed that it might be due to some characteristics of the contract or this different world. Tell the 2 to leave the building. Then Zuemo flew out of the window and floated on one side of the roof. With a slight stroke of his right hand, a huge portal appeared on the roof. On the other side of the portal was a huge cruise ship. Because 1/3 of the space gate was opened below the water surface, the sea water swarmed towards this side. And the cruise ship, driven by the sea water, rushed towards the space gate. A moment later the cruise ship rushed out of the space gate with the sea water and hit the roof hard. The huge impact force made the bottom of the cruise ship embedded in the top of the building. The cruise ship landed steadily on the roof of the building. Except for the bottom. The rest of the part extended out of the building. And because of the slope at the bottom of the ship, it was basically impossible for zombies to climb from the outside of the building to the deck of the cruise ship. The 2 sisters standing on the roof of a building next to them watched this scene. They were all stunned. Can this portal be opened so big? Jenny looked at her sister and asked. Should be. I can, although they were immersed in practice all day. Their mental strength was there after all. At most, they could only open a space door with a diameter of 5 or 6 meters. It was nothing compared to the one in front of them with a diameter of more than 50 meters. After finishing, Zuemo ordered the 2 to come to the edge of the deck of the huge yacht. You 2 continue to practice. Try to open the space door in a place where zombies are densely populated. After that, Zuemo came to the yacht, where Alyssa was. After entering the room, Zuemo saw the scene in the room. Even a pervert like him couldn't stand it. When Alyssa saw Zuemo coming in, she closed the portal that sandwiched her in the middle. She came up like a child who had done something wrong. You can't blame me. Who told you not to come back for several days? Zuemo looked at her speechlessly. He told her to practice space teleportation well, and she was obedient. But this way of practicing is really fucking explosive. Chapter 72. The undead scourge is coming. Throw Alyssa into the cruise ship on the roof. Zuemo came to the US Department of Defense. If you want to be able to use undead creatures to clean up zombies safely, you have to deal with the threat. It's nuclear weapons. To prevent some high-level human beings from seeing the threat of the undead when transforming the undead or cleaning up the zombies, they directly use nuclear weapons to deal with the undead. These nuclear weapons must be destroyed first. Although the network in many cities has been interrupted now. But the satellite network is still available. The launch of nuclear weapons relies on the satellite networks of various countries to transmit information. Of course, a large number of weapon launch systems are not connected to the external network. This requires Zuemo to destroy them one by one. To this end, he also specially exchanged an intelligent system similar to Jarvis. Within one day. Zuemo visited various countries that possess nuclear weapons. At night, Zuemo stood on the deck of the cruise ship on the roof. I looked at the time on my watch. It should be almost the same. As soon as he finished speaking. With insight, several white lines were seen flying towards the sky. Until we reach outer space, there is a burst of light at the end of these white lines. This scene takes place in various countries that possess nuclear weapons. From this moment on, there will be no nuclear weapons on the entire planet. Zuemo looked at the 3 people standing behind him. Next, let's get started. As his words fell. The 3 of them came to the edges of the deck in all directions. Put the headphones on around your neck. Wave your hand to cast a spell. A space door with a diameter of several meters slowly opened. Zuemo came to the air with the appearance of the Dark God book. 3 huge space gates with a diameter of about 50 meters appeared in the distant sky. Zuemo, who could only use one space door of this size, opened 3 directly with the increase of the Dark God book. And these 3 space gates will lead to the most populous cities in the world. With all the space doors opened. Zuemo pressed a button on the remote control in his hand. Do a Huge whistle sounded from the cruise ship point. The other end of the space door includes the entire city of Los Angeles, and all the zombies are running madly towards the building point. The 9 space gates in the sky are large and small point. It is like a flood discharge gate point. Countless zombies spewed out from inside point. However, since the space door was in midair, these zombies fell directly from midair after they came out point. Soon point the ground has become a sea of zombies. Countless zombies crazily climbed up along the outer wall of the building. However, the outer walls of the building are all made of glass, and zombies have no way to take advantage of it. As the number of zombies increased, they piled up directly around the building. In a short time, they were stacked to a height of more than 10 meters. However, this height is insignificant for a building that reaches more than 300 meters. Zuemo looked at the crazy zombies below point. I couldn't help but sigh again. This is almost the most despairing zombie among all zombie worlds. Hearing and smell are strengthened and tireless. As long as you are attracted by the sound, you will not stop until you die. There are almost no obstacles that can stop them. The only drawback may be that they cannot swim. Point in the United States Pacific Aircraft Carrier Fleet. Point Admiral Wells was sitting in the conference room with a heavy look on his face. Point at this time, the atmosphere in the entire conference room seemed a bit dull. Point just now all the nuclear weapons in the entire country were launched into space. Point originally this thing was used as the last force to resist zombies, but for some unknown reason it was directly launched. Point at this time, a soldier walked up to him and whispered a few words in his ear. What? His expression changed, and then he waved. Point the soldier nodded. Point returned to the computer aside for a while. Point soon, a picture was projected onto the big screen in front of the conference room. Point people in the conference room looked upward. Point the scene on the screen was the scene outside the Wilshire Center building. Point looking at the scene on the screen, exclamations of exclamation echoed throughout the conference room. God, did I read that right? How did this cruise ship get placed on the roof of the building? That's amazing. What is that portal? Unbelievable. Hearing the exclamations of the people, Admiral Wells clapped his hands. The entire conference room fell silent instantly. Several other cities have also had this kind of portal appear, and based on intelligence, these portals are similar to portals, which attract all zombies from various cities to Los Angeles. As he said that, several more small pictures appeared on the screen. It was a space gate in the rest of the city, and countless zombies were rushing in towards the space gate. Point then, the picture gradually zoomed in. Point they also saw several people standing on the roof. Point however, I can only see the general outline, but I can't see the specific appearance. What do you think we should do, Admiral? Wells asked. Point after a moment, an officer spoke. I think this is an opportunity for us. After attracting everyone's attention, he continued. Although I don't know what the other party's purpose is, it is good for us at present. There are a large number of people on the ship now, and food and water are not sufficient. It seems that one of the cities where the zombies were attracted to leave is New York. The other party attracted the zombies in New York, so it is obviously a great opportunity for us to collect supplies. At this point, he tactically drank a sip of water, and I suggest not to provoke the other party. Just pretend that the other party does not exist. The other party has such means. We have no way to fight him. He only needs to open a portal to the city center on the ship, and we will all die in the mouths of zombies. Hearing his words, everyone in the conference room nodded in agreement. Admiral Wells also agreed with his point of view. Okay, send a message to all the remaining fleets in the country. No one can provoke the other party without reason. The same meeting took place in countries with satellites around the world. Point surprisingly consistent. Point all countries made the same decision as Wells. The space gate lasted for a whole day. Point during this process, they would change the location of the space channel every once in a while. Zuemo looked at the zombies that had been piled up under the hull and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, thanks to the combined structure of the ship and the building, these zombies could not come up at all. Almost. Now, the zombies in the entire city of Los Angeles are conservatively estimated to be more than 10 million. It is nearly 4 or 5 times the number of zombies in the original city. Because he didn't know whether magic like the undead scourge, which transforms zombies into undead creatures, would have points, he didn't plan to continue. If the points were not counted, wouldn't he lose a lot? Anyway, after death, zombies and corpses can also be transformed again. There are tens of millions of zombies that have been transformed into an undead army, which is enough. After all, the undead army is getting bigger and bigger. Thinking of this, Zuemo turned around and sent the 3 people who were almost exhausted out of the range of the magic circle. You must know that in this magic circle, there is no distinction between enemies and friends. All creatures will be infected by the energy of the undead. The several portals opened by him slowly closed. At the same time, his body began to float slowly, hovering about 50 meters above the cruise ship point. He chanted a series of difficult and incomprehensible spells. The energy on the dark book in front of him began to fluctuate violently. As the last spell came out, a tsunami-like energy tide gushed out of the dark book, and a dark light column went straight to the sky and the earth point at the same time. The 5 magic arrays located around the city were also activated. 5 light columns also appeared. The whole city was filled with a grey-black energy. The undead scourge is coming. Chapter 73 Lich. The end of the return. With the completion of the magic circle, a huge black light shield, with the auxiliary magic circle as a boundary, enveloped the entire city. Then, endless grey energy spread wildly with the dark book as the center. Soon it filled the entire city. Outside the city. The 3 women looked at the spectacular scene in front of them in shock. From the outside, they could only see a grey light shield, and could not see the specific situation inside at all. They could only roughly see a few zombies close to the protective shield. The moment they came into contact with the grey energy, their flesh and blood melted like ice and snow. Jenny showed a trace of worry on her face. Will the boss be okay in there? After signing the contract, they wanted to change their words to master, but Zuemo refused and asked them to change their words to boss. After all, calling them master would make them look like perverts. Although this fact is not much different. Only Alyssa would call him like this at certain times. Don't worry, Alyssa smiled charmingly and patted her talent to ashore. From my personal experience during this period, the master is really great. Hearing this, Jenny blushed. He glanced at her angrily, but she didn't say much. After these few days of contact, she has already understood Alyssa's character. The word perverted is not enough to describe her 1/10 compared to what she did on the ship these days. This is already restrained enough. Inside the shield under the grey energy, the whole city has completely quieted down. All the zombies lie on the ground, as if they are completely dead, and their flesh and blood have disappeared. Looking around. The streets are full of piles of bones after the flesh and blood of each zombie completely melts. A tiny filament will overflow from the corpse and gather in the sky. Gradually, a rolling grey sphere is formed in the air. The grey energy still penetrates into the bones without stopping. This process lasted for more than an hour. In the sky at the center of the city. Zuemo felt the cold gradually coming from his body, and his face became a little ugly. He still overestimated his mental power. Such a huge amount of energy is no longer something he can fully control. Fortunately, with the help of the dark book, he can roughly control the trend of energy. However, without the ability to accurately control it, part of the energy has dissipated, and these dissipated energies have begun to gradually erode his body. In fact, it stands to reason that this situation is inevitable. Unless the mental power is strong to a certain extent, it can make itself unaffected by this situation as much as possible. Otherwise, almost all necromancers would not be like a dried mummy. This is all because of the erosion of the undead energy. But once the bow is drawn, there is no turning back. Zuemo can only grit his teeth and hold on. At this time, the bones piled on the street seemed to have absorbed enough energy. Groups of soul fire ignited in their heads. Nearly half of these skeletons slowly climbed up from the ground. Holding various weapons, they began to walk towards the outskirts of the city. The remaining half of the skeletons disintegrated completely. They began to reassemble into various more powerful undead creatures. Countless bones gradually gathered in various areas. Undead knights, skeleton kings, bone dragons. In fact, there are many types of undead creatures: ghosts, corpse witches, dead spirits. However, these undead creatures are transformed from souls. These zombies are obviously dead things without souls. This also leads to the transformation of some skeleton type undead. However, to deal with these zombies, these physical attack skeleton type undead creatures are enough. As time goes by, the grey energy in the space has gradually become weaker, and most of it has been absorbed by the skeletons. Various undead creatures have also been transformed. At this time, The city is already crowded with various skeleton soldiers near the center. There are nearly 100,000 undead knights and hundreds of skeleton kings nearly 30 meters high point in the sky. Dozens of bone dragons with a length of more than 100 meters are waving their thin-boned wings and circling continuously. Zuemo's situation seemed a bit worse at this time. His body had shriveled up like skin and bones. He had no consciousness at all. He looked like a skeleton with a layer of flesh and blood, lifeless only in his eyes. There was a glimmer of brilliance but he knew that the spell was not over yet. The remaining energy in the entire magic circle began to converge madly towards the grey energy ball rolling in the sky. As more and more energy gathered, the energy ball gradually split apart. Finally, 10 spheres of the same size as before were formed. At the moment of splitting, the shape of the sphere began to change dramatically. After a while, it turned into a humanoid creature. This creature seemed to have no entity, but was made up of pure energy. In the position of the head, 2 scholar eyes emitted a strange light. After these 10 figures were generated, they floated autonomously to Zuemo in the air. Master. Looking at the appearance of these figures, the name of an undead creature appeared in his mind. Lich. According to the record of liches in the Dark God book, there are 2 types of liches. One is an undead creature that the necromancer transforms himself into in some way. The other is the one in front of him. A lich that is born entirely on resentment. This kind of lich has a higher affinity for undead magic than the lich transformed by the undead wizard. It can be said that he was born to become a necromancer. Almost any undead magic can be cast. With these liches, you can constantly cast undead summons on zombie corpses. To strengthen these undead armies with the birth of 10 liches, the light of the magic circle covering the entire city gradually faded until it finally disappeared. Zuemo's figure slowly fell from the sky. The moment his body touched the ground, it turned into ashes and dissipated between heaven and earth. After receiving his notice, Kimti, he and the other 2 who returned here with the help of the space gate saw this scene and their faces changed. Boss. The 3 walked forward. As the body dissipated, Zuemo's soul-emitting blue light also appeared in the original place. He did not expect that casting this magic would destroy this body, but fortunately, the magic was completed in the end. The rest of the things can be done by the 3 women and 10 liches. Besides, if necessary, he can come to this world at any time. Although his counterpart in this parallel world is gone, he can still use the power of the contract to enter the body of anyone with the 3 women as a medium, and thus descend to this world. Of course, it is the kind of entry that occupies the other person's body. Although the incompatible body affects the performance of his strength with these undead armies, he does not need to take action again. He turned his head and explained to the 3 women, and then his figure gradually disappeared from the spot. Chapter 74. 10 million points. 3rd level force suit. In the Star Tower, Zuemo's body was suspended, and he slowly opened his eyes. Then he landed on the ground. System. Open the attribute panel. In the process of casting magic just now, he had to concentrate on controlling the energy, and he had turned off the prompt sound of points acquisition, so he was still not sure whether the undead he converted would count as points. As soon as he thought fell, a transparent attribute panel appeared in front of him. Name: Zuemo. Age: 20 years old. Strength: 1495 tons. Speed: 1410 meters/s. Telekinesis: 1280 tons. Special ability: free space points. 11,538,200 points. Level: planetary level 1. Looking at the long string of numbers in the points column, Zuemo almost jumped up with excitement. More than 10 million points. All the points he had obtained before did not add up to more than 200,000. Not even a fraction of this now. He got so many points at once. He suddenly felt like he had become rich overnight. Just when he was about to open them all, he felt someone outside the Star Tower enter the room. Zuemo temporarily gave up the idea of exchanging items and disappeared from the Star Tower. Suddenly appeared in the villa, and he saw Annie sitting in the living room with a lonely face. Feeling the movement behind him. Annie turned her head suddenly. Seeing Zuemo standing behind the sofa, she smiled with surprise, jumped up from the sofa, ran to steps, and threw herself into his arms. "Dear, you are finally back. As she said that, her voice became a little choked. Zuemo felt that the other party's mood was a little wrong and reached out and stroked the other party's head. What's wrong? What happened? Annie shook her head. Breaking out of his arms, she looked at his face seriously. Her face burst into tears and smiled. No, I just miss you a little. Hearing this, Zuemo breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, it's just a few days. Look how anxious you are. A few days? Annie muttered doubtfully. Zuemo saw the expression on her face and had a bad feeling in his heart. Looking up at the clock on the wall of the living room. Looking at the date written on it, October 28th, 2008. More than 2 months have passed. Zuemo showed a surprised look on his face. He remembered very clearly that Wanda's university started in August, and he also performed the dream walking technique in August. At most, he stayed in the other world for only a week. How long have I disappeared? Zuemo asked Annie in his arms. 73 days, Annie replied without hesitation. In that case, the time between the two worlds is about 10 to 1, Zuemo said secretly, and at the same time, he was secretly glad that he didn't stay in that world for too long. Otherwise, when he came back, maybe several years had passed in this world. Dear Annie woke up Zuemo, who was thinking, I haven't seen you for more than 2 months. Don't you have anything you want to do? Zuemo heard this and saw that the other party's eyes were about to tear and pretended to be surprised. Indeed, after such a long time, the flowers at home really need to be watered. Hearing Zuemo's answer and glanced at him with her beautiful eyes, pretended to be fierce. It's not just the flowers at home that need to be watered. After saying that, she pushed him down on the sofa without saying anything. When Zuemo returned to the Star Tower again, it was already the next morning. It's better to have your own body. Zuemo came to the training room with a refreshed spirit. The combat power of his body is not comparable to that of the isotopes in other worlds, according to Captain America. He can keep fighting with the other party. Just when he was about to enter the training room, Crossing G appeared beside him with a smile on her face. Master, would it be boring to stay in the training room alone? Do you need a sparring partner? You can customize your clothes. She turned around a few times, and her clothes kept changing in the process. What black silk all, Lalita outfit, sailor suit, nurse outfit, there is everything. Zuemo's face was full of black lines. When you have nothing to do, stop looking at those messy things on the internet. After saying that, Zuemo turned around and walked into the training room. Crossing G looked at the closed door and showed a puzzled look on her face. No, I think those people on the internet like this tune. Zuemo entered the training room and suppressed the restless emotions in his heart. It's not all good to have a strong physique. Just like him, he completely lost the ability to enter the sage time. After a while, Zuemo calmed down and opened them all to search carefully. The first is the items to improve strength. Before becoming immortal, there is no need to spend time on slowly accumulating energy. Each stage has a corresponding treasure that can improve strength. And the number of treasures that can improve planetary strength is very large. Zuemo searched inside. Instantly, various treasures that can improve planetary strength appeared. Cayenne lawn grass, red flame fruit, starleaf cold dew. These treasures dazzled Zuemo. Finally, Zuemo's eyes fell on an item called Planetary Nutrition Cabin. Planetary Nutrition Cabin. The cabin is equipped with special spiritual liquid, which can upgrade the planetary level from the 1st level to the 9th level, which takes 1 month. Points required for exchange: 500,000. It only takes 1 month to upgrade from the 1st level to the 9th level. Among all the treasures Zuemo has seen, this is the shortest time. After hesitating for a moment, Zuemo made up his mind. By Zuemo, who has more than 10 million points, can be said to be rich. After exchanging the nutrition cabin, Zuemo continued to browse in the mall. The nutrition cabin improves the strength of the body. And he also needs to improve his mental power to the 9th level of the planetary level. Finally, Zuemo chose a spiritual liquid called Bibo-Sui. This spiritual liquid costs 100,000 points per drop. It takes 10 drops to upgrade from the first level of planetary level to the 9th level. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the blue wave marrow *10, consuming 1 million points. After exchanging the two items, Zuemo was not in a hurry to use them. Instead, he continued to browse in the system. All point improving combat effectiveness includes many aspects in addition to one's own strength. Another aspect is weapons and equipment points. Soon the system's prompt sounded in his ears. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 3rd level force suit, Feather God Armor, consuming 2.6 million points. The Feather God Armor is similar to the Black God suit and can change its appearance as he wishes. It's not that he doesn't want to exchange for a higher level suit, but with the planetary level force level, he can only use the 3rd level suit and weapons at most. Point with a thought in his mind. A white feather-like object more than 50 centimeters long appeared in Zuemo's hand. Point squeeze a drop of blood from his finger and drip it on it. Point in a moment, this huge feather turned into a viscous liquid and adhered to Zuemo. Point then it spread along the surface of Zuemo's body. Point after a while, under Zuemo's control, it turned into a set of combat clothing that completely covered his body. Chapter 75 Fair Competition. The suit changes shape according to his thoughts. Finally it turned into a suit and was put on him. Point this Feather God Armor, like the Black God suit, can weaken the power by 90%. The only difference is that the Feather God Armor has a higher upper limit, and even the attacks of Domain Lord level experts can still be weakened by 90%. The limit of defense of the Black God suit is only a stellar attack. After getting familiar with the Feather God Armor, Zuemo was no longer in a hurry to exchange items. Most telepathy weapons have requirements for mental power amplitude, and he plans to calm down and practice for a while. Point after all the points in the apocalyptic world are received, you can then consider what treasures to redeem. Point anyway, according to the situation, where the undead army is attacking more and more, it will take more than a month at most to clear out all the zombies in that world. Even if there is a tenfold time gap between the two worlds, it is only about a year in this world. Point Pennsylvania State University, a certain teaching building. Point Wanda walked down the stairs with a few books in her arms. Wanda, wait a minute. Just as he was about to go downstairs, a man chased him downstairs. Hearing this voice, Wanda had an ugly look on her face, and then she seemed to have not heard it, and instead sped up her steps downstairs. Point despite this, soon a figure caught up from behind and stopped in front of her. The man is wearing a plaid shirt and jeans. After a pause, he took out 2 tickets from his shoulder bag. Classmate Wanda, I have 2 concert tickets here. Do you want to go and enjoy them together tonight? Looking at the man blocking the front, Wanda's eyes flashed with boredom. Student Scott, I have reiterated it many times. Please call me by my last name. We are not familiar with each other to this extent. Here, in the United States, when calling others, they always use their last name. Point only people who are very familiar with each other will call each other's names. Also, I'm married. I love my husband very much. It's impossible and I have no interest in going to any concerts with you. Please don't harass me again in the future, otherwise I will choose to call the police. After saying that, Wanda ignored the other party's ugly look, directly picked up the classmate beside her, walked around the other party and walked downstairs. Scott looked at the other person's leaving figure, took a deep breath, and his expression returned to normal. Point and put on a smile again. Point then he chased the opponent again. Point the first time he saw Wanda get off the red Ferrari, he had already made up his mind to catch her. After all, he thought that in his life, only when he was in college, he would have the opportunity to come into contact with such a beautiful and wealthy woman. As for the other party's so-called marriage remarks, he didn't believe it at all. He had already investigated clearly and found out that the Wanda in front of him was a freshman this year. How could a woman of this age and with such wealth enter the marriage hall at this age? All these are just excuses for the other party to reject him. Point he firmly believes that as long as he persists, he will be able to impress the other party sooner or later. As for the embarrassment at this moment, it didn't matter. If he really can't impress the other party by then, he can only take desperate measures downstairs. As soon as Wanda walked out, she noticed a familiar figure not far away. Seeing this, she showed a surprised smile on her face, ran 2 steps, and jumped directly into the other person's arms. This person is naturally Zuemo, who just came here. Dear, why are you here? Zuemo handed the flower in his hand to the other party. No matter whether you are a woman of any age, your mood will change in several levels. After receiving flowers, this is the experience he has gained over the years. Of course it's because I miss you, Zu. Emo reached out and caressed the other person's head and said with a smile. When Wanda heard this, she lightly pecked Zuemo on the face. Then she seemed to have thought of something and reached out to pull the girl beside her over. Let me introduce you, this is my good friend Sky. After speaking, she also introduced Zuemo to the other party. At this time, Zuemo turned to look at the girl beside him. The moment their eyes met, the expressions on their faces changed at the same time. Yes, Sky recognized at a glance that the person in front of him was the person who peeked at her bathing through a special portal in her bathroom last time. Yes, I'm Wanda's husband. Seeing the other person's expression, Zuemo quickly recalled it and quickly reached out to hold the other person's outstretched fingers. At this time, Sky also reacted. Although the other party took advantage of what happened last time, she could guess from the other party's expression that he didn't mean it. After all, the two have never met. Besides, when someone is peeping, they will open the hole as big as one person. Wanda asked with confusion on her face when she saw Sky's expression. What, you two know each other? Sky came to her senses and shook her head quickly. No, I just look familiar to your husband. Wanda smiled awkwardly when she heard this and glanced at Zuemo. There was a hint of resentment in his tone. Indeed, my husband used to be a frequent reader of Playboy magazine. After hearing Wanda's words, Zuemo did not defend himself. Instead, he changed the topic directly. Okay, don't talk about these unhappy things. It's getting late. Let's go get something to eat first. Wanda and the two nodded after hearing this. At this time, a figure caught up from behind. Scott, who came closer, looked at Zuemo and Wanda holding flowers, and the look on his face changed. This is when Wanda saw that the other party was still pestering her. There was a trace of anger on her face. Who he is has anything to do with you? Do we know each other well? After saying that, she hugged Zuemo's arm and was about to leave together. Zuemo looked at the man coldly. What just happened upstairs has been clearly reflected in his mind through his mind. I originally planned to come down and send someone to take care of him. But I didn't expect this person to be so thick-skinned. Thinking of this, he turned to Wanda and said, next time you have this kind of trouble, remember to tell me, or you can call Avril. She will help you solve these troubles. After Wanda heard it, she quickly explained, I just don't think it's necessary to trouble you, and I thought that, after rejecting the other party would give up. Zuemo stretched out his hand to comfort the other party. Walked up to the man. When the man saw Zuemo walking up, a look of panic flashed across his face. But the other party quickly calmed down. Brother, fair play. Hearing this, Zuemo laughed angrily. He would not let such an unstable factor stay by Wanda's side. If you like competition so much, I'll give you a chance to compete in prison to pick up soap. After saying that, Zuemo's eyes flashed with a strange purple color. Scott on the other side was stunned for a moment, then turned around and left with dull eyes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.